Yeah, Adam, what's going on?
What's going on with you? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hope you're doing well. Hope everyone's doing well. I hope no one blinded themselves by staring at the sun yesterday.
Yeah, these glasses didn't work very well. It's my pink, what are those called? Louvers? Velouvers? They
I
didn't
don't
work
know.
very well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, I do have to apologize because yesterday I'm like, Adam, can we start early so that I can make sure that I can see the eclipse? And he
right.
did. He had to shuffle schedule around. He had to like catapult his wife out of the house,
Yep,
just so I could see the eclipse.
totally.
Right. And so we finish early. I go out and I put on my little glasses. I look at the eclipse and I'm like,
This is lame. Well, that was my prediction. Look, I didn't even go outside. I was like, yeah, okay. Call me in 2044.
I was like, because okay, here's the problem. If you haven't experienced this, you put on these like glasses, right?
Hmm.
And what it like you can't see anything with the glasses on because they're
Oh yeah,
so
it's like
shaded.
black.
Right. It's like just completely black, but you can see the sun. So you look up at it and you see nothing, but you see the sun and then you see like the moon's in front of it. But since there's no context to the image because you can't see like the sky, it literally just looks like the moon.
Hmm. Okay.
And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I've seen this like every night. Like it just doesn't look that cool. And I was like, okay, this is so sad. Because if you see, I don't know if you saw there's like a video, if you're like where it fully becomes eclipsed, so that like all of a sudden it just becomes dark for like 10, 20 seconds or a minute or however long. Like that was cool, right? You're
That's
like walking
badass.
around, all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's like dun, dun. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. But if you're not, you're just like, oh, look, it's not that exciting.
It does create a weird environment. But we just had an eclipse not that long ago where it did actually get super dark in Los Angeles during the day.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I was like, well, this is weird. We're having them like every 15 minutes now. What's going on?
Right. Yeah, and a lot of people they just had the clouds blocking everything so they couldn't even see it. So,
All right. So enough of the
whatever.
boring eclipse stuff.
I
Let's
know. So sad. Well, I don't know, maybe it depends what our time is. Maybe we'll watch that the person blaming climate change on, for earthquakes, eclipses, and cicadas. But first, based Anna. Look at this. This is a very awesome clip. This is Anna being super based. And not only do I want to show this because obviously, where Anna stands here, but it shows to everyone watching the importance of you as an individual being based in your community and in your life without just joining the other side. Because it shows how you can convince people to be more rational by you being more rational and existing near them. Okay.
right. And this kind of works. Obviously, this works for Ana Kasparian because she has a voluminous track record of being a
Right.
progressive, right?
Right.
I know people are trying to push her out of the progressive tribe, but if you're introducing yourself this way, like if we just met Anna and she's like, I'm a
Yeah, of
progressive,
course.
I'm
Of course.
wary that I'm skeptical that this would work as well. So
Yeah, of
just
course. Of
word to
course.
the wise. But I do
Right.
believe what you're saying. Like we do need people who are prominent figures in each tribe pushing back against the crazies.
Right. Now, I'm not gonna play the whole thing, so if you want to watch the whole thing, watch it on the Young Turks channel. Just play a couple minutes of it. Basically, the background here, the story is that there was a school and they hired some like super woke person to try to fix, the ethnic racial imbalances in the hiring. And of course, lo and behold, two things happens. They supposedly hire a bunch of their friends as
Right.
opposed to hiring people that are actually good for the positions, number one. And
Political
then
patronage. Where have I heard that before?
yeah, exactly. Who could have ever predicted that that would be the thing that happens? And then number two, it's funny, this really shows you how intersectionality very often fails because they hired a bunch of people who were their friends who were not white, and lo and behold, a lot of those people turned out to be socially conservative and didn't exactly agree with the progressives and the leftists on their views on gay and trans people. And so you get this
Uh-oh.
kind of intersectional car crash pileup of like, uh-oh, the non-white person is in favor of the LGBT rights. As a white person, can I like attack them or criticize them, or does that make me racist?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's terrible. Intersectionality is just the bane of our existence.
And it, yeah, never works. So
Like, ooh, what do we say to them? Just talk honestly with them.
White liberals have trouble because for the most part, they tend to be pretty privileged, okay, pretty well-to-do, okay, and are hyper-focused on the culture war stuff, which is typically driven by their unending guilt. So just be a freaking human being. Treat the freaking students with respect, okay? And can we please just hire the most qualified people to do the job? Because kids can't even freaking read. And we're having a discussion about like, is the double-blind hiring process increasing diversity when the person who's implementing this policy isn't even following it and deciding to hire her friends instead?
Yeah,
100%. Ridiculous.
If you didn't have
I need like the heart animation around me when I listen to these, because this is so amazing.
And it's very true. There is this problem where the left, especially the white left, is so burdened with the guilt of, the actions of America in the past that it leads them down this pathway to basically letting, these bad actors, these progressive or leftist bad actors to run roughshod all over them completely and just fall into this trap again and again and again.
Not me though. Look, I just like to come out with my fat stacks. I'm like, look, I'm rich and white. You should listen to me. Okay? I got a college degree and I ain't even using it.
It's unfortunate though, like, and this is kind of what's annoying in the discourse, is that because there's been so much crying wolf over socialism for like the last ever.
Yeah, by the conservatives, right?
Right. It makes it difficult to talk about because so like when you're trying to be persuasive to people in this sort of like team game perspective, you have to give people an avenue of retreat or an avenue of, let's say, identification that they can sort of say, well, I'm not part of this group. I'm going to be part of this group, right? Like if you just attack their group, then they're going to be more likely to shut down. And it's unfortunate because I think it is important to make a distinction between the liberals and the socialists. Leftist is probably too confusing for people outside of this audience because most people probably don't know that leftist means like to the left of liberal. Because like you do have time and time again, the majority of the people left in America are liberals, and thus liberals are basically falling into the pit of getting tricked into all these anti-liberal positions by socialists because most people don't really understand political philosophy or their principles or what's really going on in any situations. They just say, oh, the left-wing person tells me this, and the white liberal feels the guilt, and they kind of fall into the trap. When it's the leftist socialist ideology that is basically dragging liberals into this position in the first place. But it's just so obnoxious because we don't really have like a good label for the socialists to call out that like the mainstream normie liberal who's not super politically aware of this stuff would hear and not instantly be like, well, socialists, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I did mention, obviously we've talked about this before, that conservatives kind of cried wolf about socialism so much in the realm of social programs. I think the conservatives would respond that CRT is evidence that their cries were warranted. I'm not sure I agree with that, just because, like, how does CRT intersect with Social Security, right? Like,
well, it's
it's
cultural socialism, cultural Marxism.
Yeah, but how the conservatives are constantly saying, Social Security is socialism, right?
Right,
and we need to, universal healthcare is socialism,
right?
And we have to be vigilant against socialism. But CRT is like a completely different animal. Like CRT is socialism.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear cries of, CRT is socialism, or, race socialism is becoming a problem. I mean, that's happening now, but I don't think those are like cries of wolf.
Right. Well, maybe that's a good way of phrasing it. Race socialism.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a better label. I don't know. So
yeah, James Lindsay called it race Marxism, which I mean, I'm big time in favor of things that are just cut through the noise, just say what it is, right? I mean, it basically is race socialism.
Of course.
How is this not even to the point where this woman gained some sort of political power. And what does she do immediately? Oh, she starts giving patronage out to her friends.
Right.
This is why socialism always fails, because it destroys the meritocracy immediately. People are like, I got to surround myself with loyalists so I can stay in power. Well, are they good at what they do? No, but they love me.
Well, socialism doesn't believe in meritocracy at all. Like even the concept of it doesn't even like it just acts like people are these interchangeable cogs that with the right education or environment would all basically perform the same. And we obviously know that's not the case.
Well, that's great because it makes it easy to do this kind of thing. It gives them a perfect excuse, perfect rationalization.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have the needless white guilt. If you didn't have the patronizing attitude, you would just simply say, no, you can't tell a trans student that God is looking out for that person, and and if they listen to God enough, they'll turn around and be straight. That's not close. Of course, you can't say that in a public school.
Like, this story is crazy. Like, this just has to be so triggering for people. It's like the meme where he's trying to decide which button to press. Like,
right.
It's definitely the racism on one button and transphobia on the other button. It's like, oh shit.
Well, it's just a clear indication of why the whole intersectional approach will never work, because it's not like this idea that, oh, the more, all the oppressed people are going to have these like leftist, socialist, progressive views is preposterous.
Hell no.
Usually when they don't, on average.
Of course. And when you've also given them the shield of like, there's nothing they can do to be racist or bigoted.
Right.
I mean, you're just creating racist, bigoted people.
Of course.
So one of those religious counselors, Santos, kept misgendering the transgender students and then blamed it on, English being a second language. Okay.
Also known as the Hassan approach, right?
I was going to say that. I was totally thinking the same thing.
Oh, why does English is my second language? Whoopsies. Did I say something about America deserving 9/11? I don't know what I said. Listen, English is,
Maybe some kind of language barrier or something.
Yeah, right. Right.
Oh, might be some language barrier stuff.
By the way,
you were hired as a counselor at a middle school where you're supposed to counsel students in English.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And I hear you. Look, but if he just screwed up a couple of times and said the wrong gender, there's no new giant magazine article about it. We're not talking about it here.
Let's be honest here, Sitch. We kind of need this in the schools, though. I do think there's like a social contagion going on about the transgender stuff.
Yes.
So I'm kind of withholding judgment here. Like I may actually be on this person's side. Like I may be thankful that he got hired.
You want more non-white counselors and teachers who are like don't believe in trans stuff.
Well, I mean, if he's keeping it real, if these kids are like coming out, and they're really just caught up in some social contagion. Like there's a lot of amateur therapy going on in these schools. Right. That we do need to be fighting back against.
Of course.
If this based counselor is coming in there and just putting their foot down. I mean, I don't like the God thing. Like, just a little prayer and you can solve this. I mean, I'd like to keep it in the realm of science, right? But if I'll take wins where I can get them if they're pushing back against this social contagion.
Okay.
It wasn't just that he misgendered a couple of times.
They faced a Title IX investigation, and the Title IX investigation was damning. The results were damning. We're gonna get to that in just a second. I'm gonna give you a specific example of one of the transgender students. Pseudonym here, not a real name, but Joe goes by Joe in the piece. So Joe was allegedly relentlessly bullied by some of the students at this middle school. But there,
look, it's a transgender kid in middle school, Sitch.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It's pretty yikes.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's like 7th grade. What is that? How old is that?
12, 13.
Yeah. 12, 13?
Yep.
You think kids know if they're transgender at 12?
No.
Yeah. Oof.
No.
There was a problem because the students went unpunished for the bullying that was taking place. Joe and their mother continued to report incidents of alleged bullying and harassment to various staffers at arms. Although one boy received a suspension, Joe and their mother were dismayed that the school did not mete out more consequences.
Notice that there.
Now, why? Why did they not mete out more consequences? This is where I rip my hair out of my head. Like many other progressive school districts, Amherst uses restorative justice practices, which prioritize let's mediation and reconciliation over punishment, meaning nothing, meaning no action. Okay, don't feed me this BS about like, oh, we did mediation. No, they're relentlessly bullying the transgender student. Okay, you could take your mediation and shove it up your ass because this kid feels unsafe on campus because you guys want to do your cutesy little restorative justice. That's what's happening on this campus.
Yeah, and so
you can't even say bullshit on Young Turks anymore.
Well, they gotta stay monetized, okay?
Okay, it's a tough out there. I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, but so yeah, it's so funny to me because this is the whole like the left eats itself. It's
Right.
like because they have this policy in place because they're like, oh no, we're suspending too many Black and Hispanic kids, so we have to get rid of basically suspension. And we see this happening all across the country. And then it's like, oh, but wait a minute, the Black and Hispanic kids are bullying the trans kids. What do we do? I don't know what to do now. Oh no.
It is pretty amazing, isn't it?
It's just it's the perfect oh, the thing you wanted happened and now you're ruining the consequences of it.
Yeah.
Oh my
Look,
God, I love this
consequences
story.
matter.
Yes.
So guys, again, if it was just one case and a kid says, hey, I feel uncomfortable, it's less clear. Based on the circumstance, I would have believed that kid, but still you could say, hey, I'm not sure. But it is not one case. It is several trans students who have experienced the same thing. As Anna said, there was an investigation and it makes this story a little bit clearer. But here we have this feelings and sensitivities of the trans community, which can be quite sensitive at times, right? But in this case appear to be incredibly legitimate, right? Versus restorative justice. So what's a leftist to do?
You have diversity hires who are deeply religious and anti-trans versus transgender students who feel unsafe versus, honestly, the majority of the bullies are described as Black and Latino. So then you have the Black and Latino students who are being protected by the counselors and by the school because they really want to implement restorative justice. And guess what? No one's happy. And this is not an environment that's
Wait. No one's happy? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean
hilarious.
The bully kids are probably pretty happy, right?
Oh,
they get
of course.
to bully people with impunity because they're part of a protected class.
Yeah, they get to bully with impunity. Oh,
Yeah.
how good that is, right?
This is, I'm glad Anna brought this up. This is like the great conflict, the ideological problem that this ideology kind of puts you in this path. And there's not really an answer that's ever been provided by the left to explain, like, what do you do in the situation when you have these various intersectional groups clashing with each other? Who wins in this context? Is it just whoever's the more oppressed by society, by their collective group? They just get to do whatever they want? I mean, because that's the way essentially it kind of works.
This is why Lady Justice wears a blindfold. This is why the blindfold exists.
Yeah, but that's a dirty liberal conception, okay? Where you're supposed to look at an individual as an individual, not part of his racial, gender collective, and you're supposed to separate them and say, just give me the facts, ma'am/sir. No. That's dirty, dirty liberalism. We need to adhere to this sort of collectivist social Marxism, okay? Where your group identity is the most important thing.
Wrong, good sir. Let's just go back to procedural fairness, okay?
No.
Let's put the blindfold back on Lady Justice and get back to business.
Conducive to learning, which is what the school is supposed to be about.
Yeah, and look, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but near the end of the story, then the parents get so upset, the white parents, they start going seemingly after all the minority teachers and staff, and they get to a Black teacher and staffer who didn't do anything wrong. And then they start thinking about doing an investigation of her. Stop using people's identities as a way of judging them. I don't care if they're black or Latino or trans. I care if they're right or wrong. Okay, that black staffer happened to be a wonderful person who was trying to bring everybody together, right? It's driving me crazy.
Other thing that
so this is part why, like what Cenk just said there, is part of why I really wanted to highlight this clip, and this is why I think it is important what Ana is doing and what other people are kind of engaging in this project. So you have Cenk, who is, like TYT, they kind of like labeled themselves as progressive. Now, when they did that, many, many years ago, there was kind of this idea that progressive was like, oh, I'm more economically left-wing than, the liberal Americans or the liberals in America. Also, around that time period, liberal was kind of seen as like a dirty word because the Republicans had demonized and been demonizing the word liberal for like 30 years. So they kind of wanted like a newer, hipper term. And it didn't really mean it like in the kind of socially woke way that we kind of think of as progressive or leftist now. But what Cenk just said right there is he's saying how awful identity politics is, and why can't we just go back to, looking at and treating people as individuals, which is obviously the conception of liberalism. And this is why it's so important, like what people Ana are doing is that I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong here, but I don't know if Cenk would have covered this story if it wasn't for Ana, kind of, being in the direction that she's being and kind of pulling TYT in that direction and pulling the audience in that direction in sort of the based liberalism direction, saying like, listen, look, this is the identity politics that's basically destroying the left, destroying our country. And we need to actually address it, unlike, 99% of the other shows on the left where they just ignore these stories because they view them as just simply giving ammunition to the right.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time.
Because this is the only way you're ever going to change is you have to get people on. And there's this interesting psychological phenomenon where like, if you have and you said this in the beginning and it's very true. If you have someone who has like credibility in your team and they come out and they're like, okay, this is crazy. Why are we doing this? And they kind of keep going on that bus. It allows people in that movement on that side who have those feelings to voice themselves. Be like, oh,
Yep.
well, if Ana's saying it, then like I feel more comfortable also holding that position, right?
Yeah, Ana has stored up a bunch of political capital over the years, and she's spending it wildly now. It's so
Yeah.
great. It's
Right.
so great. Yeah.
And
Yes.
yes. And that's why I mean and so it's so good that she's doing this. It's so despicable that the people attack her because they're like, oh, all the woke people are attacking her, like, oh my God, she's this right winger now because
Of
because she's
course.
mad about someone being misgendered, so she's obviously an evil right winger now.
Yeah, look, she's not expressing the right wing position here.
No, I know.
I mean,
but that's
I
why
was
it's-
more expressing the right wing position,
Of
but
course.
I feel for the kids that are, who knows if this, I mean, this kid could grow up to be transgender. Like that could happen, but that could not happen too. So I mean,
Right.
I don't think we have a fail-safe test at this point. So yeah,
Right.
that's where my
Of course.
criticism lies.
So yeah, base Ana doing the work. And this is why it's important for you guys out there, for any commentator out there to say what you believe and to try to bring sanity to your team as opposed to just always attacking, the other side or downplaying the insanity on your side to kind of like win the culture war, to win an election or something to that effect.
Yeah, it's kind of counterproductive to your team too, because all the right wingers want to do is they want to categorize all the insane progressives, the super woke progressives.
Yes.
They want to categorize all progressives that way.
Yes.
No matter how sane those progressives are.
Yes.
And if you don't have anyone like Ana Kasparian that you can point to and say, well, look, she's a progressive and she's not insane, it makes it that much easier for the right wing to do that.
Very true.
So
Very
pushing her out and making her into a right winger, I mean, what are you doing? You're basically making the right winger's argument. You're making the right winger's argument that all progressives are crazy.
Yeah. Because they say, oh, why is no one talking about this?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the progressives do the same thing with the right on racism.
Right.
But the right has done a decent job of distancing themselves from openly racist people. They do call them out, which is good. I think they kicked Richard Spencer out of CPAC. You know, no one's like loving up on Nick Fuentes. They know where they know where they're gonna they know the particular types of right wingers that are gonna make the Republicans and the conservative movement look bad. And good for them, right? We want them calling out that shit.
Yeah, they're usually, the Republicans are pretty good at calling out explicit racist.
Right.
Yeah, if you're a little bit implicit about it, and they not so much, right?
They look the other way.
Then you
It's
can
easy.
skip by.
Well, it's easy for them to say, "Well, we don't really know. We don't want to.
Yeah.
We don't want to give them the. We don't want to wrongly accuse somebody, right?
Right, of course.
I mean, I kind of agree with them.
Which I agree with to an extent, but obviously there are cases where you're like, okay, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is great. Is this all you wanted to?
That was all for this clip. Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay. So, actually, let me.
Cenk seemed to have some movement in there too, which was
he did.
Good.
That's when that was what was great about the clip. Even Cenk is moving in that direction as well.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about
Anna's
this.
like the Cenk whisperer.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I know, like, we covered it because it's kind of funny, but Anna and Cenk have they argue sometimes on air, and people are like, oh my God, Anna's gonna leave, she's gonna break up, blah 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 blah. And it's like, no, listen, she's gonna just pull TYT in a better direction. Okay,
Sitch and I argue all the time. Like, no, who cares?
Right, exactly.
Like, we got too much. We're too thick, as we've been in this too long for us to like throw in the towel now. And look, Anna and Cenk have been in it even longer than us. Like, I can't imagine them. I don't know. You got to build what's the saying? Truth springs from argument among friends. I love that saying because it's so true. You've got to respect one another enough that you can kind of engage without pulling your punches.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and look, we've tangled over all kinds of stuff. We tangled over the identity politics thing. The whole time I'm watching this video, I'm thinking, yep. But the problem here is that when you suspend black people, too many black people, then it makes all the other regular black people feel bad. It's a slight on their dignity, Sitch. Sitch, come back. I can't look. Sitch, I don't want to do the rest of the show alone. Please. Uh-oh. Maybe I got to read some super chats. Maybe Sitch's internet
Whenever
died.
Adam gets uppity about his identity politics, I'm just going to leave.
What happened?
Like, aha, take that. Very passive aggressive of me.
That's cool. I don't care.
Just kidding.
What is?
Okay. So, is there anything else you want to say about the clip?
There's probably some super chats about it. We should read.
Right, and then we'll go into the. Whoops. Then we'll go into the abortion topic. We talked about that yesterday. There's been more movement on it.
It's I got a weird screen here though. I don't know. Like 4 up. What's going on here?
What do you mean?
Did you put the new thing in?
I did. It's not refresh, I guess, for you. It looks like it's on your screen. It's still like the recommended or something.
Yeah, I fixed it. I just refreshed the window.
Gotcha. Schmokey for $5 says, which party do you think can control their extreme supporters, causing their internal civil war? Is it MAGA or woke worse? So I think if the Democrats wanted to, they actually wanted to, I think they could control woke better because the woke people are still, I would say, a pretty significant minority of the left in America. And it's just a lot of normies that are basically being dragged along either because they don't have the energy or will to fight it, or they just don't really understand what's going on in the left. So I think they could control their extremes significantly better. I don't think the Republicans can really control the crazy MAGA people so much because it's like the majority of people of the party are pretty very supportive of Trump. So
there's
now obviously
Well, Well, there's a problem here because obviously progressives are at a structural disadvantage because, like, progressives, they just fundamentally disagree with hierarchy in any form.
Mm-hmm.
The conservatives agree with hierarchy as long as it's a just hierarchy. Like, they're not in favor of every hierarchy, but they do accept hierarchy as something useful in the world. The problem, I think, is a lot of the MAGA crowd is a mix of conservatives and libertarians. And libertarians, I mean, they don't really, I guess they respect hierarchy if it's a just hierarchy, right? Are
Well,
they are they
I
as
don't know if it's
anti-hierarchy?
I don't know if it's libertarians. I think it's populism is very weird. Right-wing
Mm-hmm.
populism is very, very weird because, as you said, like people that are on the right intuitively are not against hierarchies and generally
No.
understand the importance and are in favor of hierarchies existing. Presumably on merit, and at least in a liberal
Yeah,
society. Yeah.
exactly.
But the weirdness about right-wing populism, because since populism is a movement that basically says the existing hierarchies have been corrupted by evil elites, it puts you in this weird situation where it's like, okay, well, how do you cure that ailment? If you're in favor of hierarchies, but you believe the current hierarchy is completely corrupted, how do you fix that? Right?
Yeah.
And you have to create like a new hierarchy. And that's why a lot of times populism sort of seems to stem around like a cult of personality, a singular figure who says, I will restore balance, I'll restore hierarchy, put all your faith and trust into me.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
And
But
that and
you
he
understand the distinction I'm making just here, the woke versus the MAGA.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
right. So and that obviously succeeds or fails depending on who the person is, whether they're competent or moral, right?
Right. Yeah.
So.
I mean, come on, it's Trump. Why are you laughing? Stop
Daily,
laughing, Sitch. That's
exactly.
not cool.
Daily Dose for
We got a lot of Trump fans in our audience.
That's fine. Listen, you could like whoever you like. Daily Dose for $5 says, "Have you all seen Quiet on Set? Personally, I don't think they should have made the fifth episode. There's some cringe in there. They could cover S class." I haven't. I don't even know what Quiet on
We'll
Set
check
is.
it out. I didn't go see Civil War. I did see people are reviewing Civil War, which made me sad because I don't. It could be a good movie. I don't know.
We'll see. Listen, we'll watch it. We'll watch it. Okay.
Yeah.
Dwight Baldwin for $5 says, "Did you see the Arizona court total abortion ban in that state?" No, but I'll look. I mean, we'll talk about it because that's kind of hilarious. It says the Arizona Supreme Court today upheld a 160-year-old law outlawing abortions at any stage of pregnancy unless the patient's life is in danger with no exceptions for rape or incest. Oh wow,
Wow.
this like just happened like an hour ago.
Look, the Republicans going to war over abortion this close to the election. So bad.
Huge
Like,
mistake. Huge
yeah,
mistake. Yeah.
so bad.
And that's what we're going to talk about when we watch the Biden and talk about some of the fallout to Trump's abortion stance. So
Yeah.
I'll look into some
Ugh.
information about this case.
I mean, Trump was kind of forced to do it, but that's something we didn't think about yesterday when we talked about this.
Right.
Is the Civil War? Maybe he should have just kept it vague.
Well, he did keep it. I mean, I think he did the best politically savvy thing he could do for the position he's in.
Right.
I'm not sure what else he could have done. I thought would have been better, but.
Yeah.
Daily Dose for $2 says best class S class is best class. Also watch Andor.
Andor.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually saw Red Letter Media reviewed it and said it was pretty good, and I love those guys, so I'll give it another chance. I liked the first three episodes. The fourth episode was so boring that I kind of lost interest, but I'll go back and give it another shot. Caney X for 122 for $2 says, "Hey now." Brian
Hey.
for $20, thank you, says the solution is the left-wingers have to stop calling themselves liberals. For instance, I am a conservative that believes in liberalism, so I call myself a liberal conservative. The left has to do the same. That's interesting. That's interesting.
That's great, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the terminology would be. Oh, wait, Brian continues for $10, says, if you're a Democrat that believes in liberalism, you're a liberal Democrat. The left destroy the meaning of what it means to be liberal, and they don't deserve that label anymore. Well, I mean, I think you have to be fair here. I don't think it's the left's fault. It's just that there's like this weird thing that happened in America, and I honestly don't know the history of it, of where the term liberal became associated with the left, as opposed to just being broadly the label that applies to both the left and the right in America, which it's supposed to and does, because we live in a liberal country and a liberal democracy. And I know that the Republicans have spent, 40 years trying to demonize the label of liberal. So I think everyone is kind of responsible for beating that term into the ground. And it's kind of part of, again, the difficulty here is, what is the term that we can use that people can rally behind and feel comfortable rallying behind. So, but I agree, they definitely need to find something to identify with. Dialogue always for $5 says, honest question, what year, decade did we have blind procedural justice? Well, I'm sure.
1997.
Oh, really? That was the year?
I don't know. I mean, it's obviously it's aspirational. Have we ever achieved it? I'm not sure. But I know now that we're not even shooting for it anymore. Right?
Well, of course. Yeah, of course. And well, I think the problem that I'd have with sort of the frame of that question is that first of all, it's not like there's one judge who decides all cases in America, right? The judicial system is made up of thousands of judges that all are all over the place. And so, there's definitely been years where there can be, a lot of bias in law, and then there's still a lot of procedural fairness and blind good justice that's existing in the country at the same time. And so I don't think you could say like, there's not like a magic year where every court case is going to be decided exactly from blind procedural justice fairness. But I do think what you can say is you can say, okay, well, let's look at an overall picture here and see overall, do we see the judicial system and legal system in our country going in the blind procedural justice direction, or do we see it going in kind of a biased direction? And it seems to me that we have definitely been, ever since the 60s, been going more and more and more into the blind procedural justice fairness direction until recently.
Right. Yeah.
That's the direction we were trending. And then as you said, Adam, it's aspirational, and you need to have, if your goal that you're aiming towards is corrupted and evil, there's no possible way that you're going to get good results along the way. While if you have a good and just goal that you're kind of aiming at, yes, there will always be corruption in the system. There'll always be corrupt people. There'll always be problems, blah, 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 blah. But you're still going in a direction. You're still going to have good outcomes.
Right. Yeah. I really don't like this attitude that, we're never going to achieve that. So therefore, why are we even trying? It's like,
right.
Well, why even make murder illegal then? It's like,
right.
Murder's going to happen, right? So let's just give up. Come on.
Libertarian Sasquatch for $5 says, I have a, quote, trans family member. She's 12, but her mom is super liberal and takes her to pride events, and all of a sudden she's trans. Seems so sus. I mean, that's kind of the difficulty here, right? Kind of difficulty.
Yeah, that's tough. I'm categorically against the children transitioning thing because it's too difficult to tell.
Me too.
Yeah.
Crack Rock Steady for $5 says, hey, Sitch, what was your definition of woke again? I really liked it, but forgot to write it down the other time you said it. Searching is a pain. So I always say it a little bit differently every time someone asks, but my definition of woke is they want you to wake up to the idea that liberalism can't solve society's problems. And so we need to adopt a system further to the left than liberalism, which is some flavor of Marxism.
Right. That's kind of the CRT woke.
Yeah.
Yeah. But different people have different.
I should actually split into two, because there's two different things when people talk about wokeness. There's the behavior and there's the ideology. And I always give the ideology answer. And I think it's important to say both. So that's the ideology answer. The behavioral answer, which is what most people understand, because that's what they focus on. Most people don't understand the ideological aspect that I just said. But everyone understands the behavioral aspect. The behavioral aspect is a strict left-wing moral policing that advocates, let's see, how would you frame this? A strict left-wing moral policing that
advocates anti-racism, anti-bigotry, anti-transphobia.
Well, no, without even going to that, I just say I just want to kind of just focus on like the moral policing aspect without any ideology. It's just a very, like, it's an
political correctness.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it used to be called. I want to focus on the cancel culture element of it, right? If you disagree with us, we're gonna like destroy you attitude.
Yeah, because I mean, was there Was political correctness ever enforced with the gun of cancel culture? I'm not sure it was until that.
Not to this extreme.
Right? Yeah, because it wasn't an option.
Well, I mean, it has been historically in our country through various time periods, sometimes on the left, but mostly more on the right, if you kind of go through the different time periods about like what was the political correctness that was kind of
cancelable,
cancelable. But so the behavior is like an extreme left-wing moral policing that is anti-free speech and wants to shut down anyone who has any disagreement with it. And I think that's what most people can like feel is wokeness when you talk about it, is that attitude.
We should have Phil on more often. Every time he comes on, people love it.
That's true. Phil, it remains for $20. Thanks so much. Phil says, if the left could control its extremes, it would have by now. They cannot. I think what's going on with the left not controlling its extremes, I think it's that they've had no desire or incentive to control them. And I don't even think there's been an attempt to control it that I've even seen. So I don't know if that's how I see it. Has there even been an attempt? And I haven't seen it. I have not seen a top-down attempt whatsoever from any major people on the left to even control these people. Because all they do is they just downplay them, pretend they don't exist, or try to rile them up to, win elections against Trump.
Yeah, it's interesting that happens. They do have cultural dominance right now. And I think that gives them the ability to kind of do that where, if you're in the cultural minority and you're trying to gain dominance, you really have to be more strict. And this is probably why the right is so strict about the racism thing. Because they are in the cultural minority right now, trying to gain dominance, trying to win the culture war. Yeah.
They have to be incentivized to do something about it. Like, so the right is incentivized to expel the very explicit racists because they think that the explicit racism will lose them elections and get them in trouble. The left doesn't think the explicit anti-white racism or wokeness of the far left will get them in trouble. Not yet, anyway.
Right.
And until that happens, they won't be incentivized to really do anything about it. That's kind of why it's unfortunate that Trump is running again. Because if we had like DeSantis or some other sort of, random Republican running and they kind of ran against wokeness and then won, and Biden lost because of wokeness, I mean, that would be a huge incentive for the left to like actually address this issue. But that's not really going to happen. Not in this election, anyway.
Yeah, it would. Just want to say, my friend of the show, Rudyard Lynch, the What If Alt Hiss guy, as he calls himself, made a great video on like an incel rebellion. I saw that Phil shared it on Twitter, and I think we should try to get Phil and Rudyard on, and maybe even Dev on to talk about that video because it's super fascinating.
Cool,
he postulates the incel uprising is going to be led by Chad generals, and we want to be those Chad generals, Sitch. So it would be a fun conversation.
There you go.
And like Rudyard loves coming on the show. He really does. Like he would come on once a month or every other week if we wanted to have him. So we should definitely have him on more often. He's a great guy. So
true. Lucy Lumbug for 5 memberships. Thanks so much, Lucy. Phil, that remains again for another $2. Thank you, Phil. Says Rush Limbaugh ruined the term liberal in the 90s. Yeah, he was definitely like one of the huge hammers against destroying that term. So,
Rush Limbaugh was the worst.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he might have coined the term libtard. I mean, he was just merciless.
Was it? I thought that was kind of a more recent thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Back in the day,
I would not be surprised. Right. Yeah. Feminazi was one of his. Like he
came
up with
one,
all of these.
That's a good term, yeah. Dialogue always for $5. Thank you. Says, I'm not asking what time period has perfect justice. I want to know what period we should go back to so I could see what you would accept.
Well, I'm about going forward.
Right.
I'm not a conservative here, okay? I don't like looking in the past. I'm a futurist. I like thinking about the future.
I think if you want to like go to a specific time period, and obviously this is going to be my own bias as is very stereotypical of most people. Yeah, like when because there was a resurgence of political correctness in like the early 90s and then it kind of died. I think the post, the mid 90s into the 2000s up until wokeness came up again in like 2014-ish, to me, that really just seemed like things were going in a very good direction in terms of the cultural attitudes in favor of liberalism, in favor of treating people as individuals, in favor of trying to push towards colorblindness. That seemed to be like we're going in a really good direction, and then obviously everything kind of fell apart. So
we got to get dialogue always on more often because he loves to argue with us.
that's true.
and,
That's
and
true.
he's definitely on the left. And look, I'll need to unblock him first.
I was like, should I tell Adam he's gonna have to unblock him if he wants to get him on?
Look, I'll unblock you next time I run across one of your tweets. I'll unblock you. So
How would you? But you'll not want to cross it because it's blocked. What do you mean?
what do you mean? I mean, sometimes I see him.
You see, like
responding.
a blocked
Yeah, look,
account has responded to
to something. Yeah, like
tweet?
he's probably trolling you all the time now that I blocked him. Does he respond to you regularly?
Sometimes.
Sometimes I get into your
Yeah.
threads and I see a
Right.
bunch of people that I blocked.
I see
'cause I'm
he
like,
gets in these super long arguments with people. It's just so annoying. I could have swore I say this now. Elon Musk needs to fix this. This is the one thing Twitter needs to fix. Okay. Well, not the one thing. There's many things. This is one of the biggest things. Okay. Is when you post something, when you tweet something or you post something, and two people get into some like multiple day, week-long argument back and forth, and they don't untag you
yeah,
from
you're
it,
stuck.
and you got the million notifications. There has to be a way. There has to be a way, Elon, for you to untag just yourself from that chain without untagging yourself from the
The whole
entire
chain,
tweet.
of
Yes.
course, yeah.
And there
Oh,
isn't. Yeah.
because there isn't, I usually just mute them, and then later once it's chilled down, I just unmute them.
If you remember, right?
Well, look, it's on. If you're not going to untag me in your thread, like, you're risking getting muted.
No
by
one
me.
ever does. No one even thinks about it. It's so rare that anyone ever thinks.
I
about it.
do.
I know I do too, but most
yeah,
people don't think
look,
about
I don't
it.
want to be that guy.
Right. Shimoki for $5 says follow up. Would the MAGA crowd inflict the summer of love on us like we had in 2020? If so, what would that look like?
Oh, it'd be horrific.
It'd
be The Handmaid's Tale Part 2.
I don't know. It's a difficult, Scott Adams has become more unhinged recently, which is sad.
Oh no,
which is sad because I like some of the things he says, but he's becoming more and more unhinged. He basically believes like every deep state conspiracy now. He thinks the CIA is behind everything. It's like completely ridiculous.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my god. And he keeps saying like
he's
if
trying
Trump
for a cabinet position, man.
I know. He keeps saying that if Trump goes to jail for any reason, that like the right is going to create a civil war rebellion or something. I'm not certain I agree with that. I think it would depend why he went to jail, what he went to jail for.
You don't agree with that?
I'm not certain I agree with that, I should say.
Right.
Or not agree with it. I said it depends on what the situation is. Because I actually do think that if Trump went to jail for, there's like this weird phenomenon psychologically. This is very well documented. And when someone's found guilty of a crime, just the act of them being found guilty changes their opinion of it. Like 10% of the population, 20% of the population. So I do think if he gets found guilty of like, some one of the January 6th things or documents things, I do think 10 to 20% of the people that were like, it's bullshit would change their minds on it, like the normies. Would the people that won't change their minds, like the really diehard Trump people, are they gonna start like burning down buildings and attacking people in the street, doing all this crazy shit if Trump goes to jail? I don't know. It's hard for me to predict that. Do you have a take on that?
They couldn't keep Jesse Smollett in jail. Like, just the idea of Trump, even if he's convicted, going to jail seems crazy to me. And every time I listen to anyone who's like an attorney or someone who knows what they're talking about, they just say the possibility of Trump being in jail is just zero.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And I do think that's, first of all, I don't think any of these cases are ever going to see the light before the election anyway, so none of this really matters at all.
Look, in the hypothetical that Trump ends up in jail, yes, I do think there could be violence in the street.
No, I think there'll be violence, but will it match like BLM riot levels of violence?
Yeah,
I don't think it will.
Yeah.
I don't think it will. That'd be my guess. I don't think it would reach that level. So
that's tough. I mean, that's a lot of justification for people to riot. So
I th
I mean, it's not justification for me, but I mean, it would be
no, I understand.
justification for them. Yeah.
I don't know if I can really verbalize it. My guess would be there will be smaller pockets of violence. There'll be some parts of the country of the party that are hyper like energized to tear shit down, but I don't think it would reach close to the level of like BLM stuff. That'd be my guess.
Okay.
That's just based entirely on intuition.
We should ask Rudyard this question because he'd be like, states are going to burn.
He thinks it's going to be a civil war, so he's going to say no, yeah, everything's going to explode, right?
Yeah.
Sulla for $5 says, "Do you think abortion and or pot will be legalized in Florida in November? If you hadn't heard, they're both on the ballot, but they require 60% to pass." Well, I know medical marijuana is already legal in Florida. I hope it just becomes completely legalized because that'd make it easier for me to get. So, and I do think this is, I mean, I don't know, 60% is a big hurdle, but I do think there's a pretty strong possibility. It's been medically legal for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years, I think. And
Look at
people seem to be
Florida.
pretty okay with it.
Look at Florida just trying to be cool like California. You guys are such wannabes.
I don't know what the Florida law for the abortion is. You're saying is it a law to make it legal or is it a law to make it illegal?
Yeah, it from the super chat. It seems like to make it legal because they're talking about legalizing pot.
Well, it is. I mean, there's restrictions. It is legal, right? There's just like a 6-week abortion ban or something.
Yeah, but that's wildly unpopular.
I
It could
agree.
cost DeSantis the governorship, and whenever he's up for re-election.
Well, he
I
can't
can't believe
actually.
he
His
did
term
this
limits.
6 week. Oh, so
He can't
he's
run again.
out
Yeah, he's
after
out.
this?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep,
wow.
he's out. He's gone.
So he's gonna run for Senate or something.
Something like I mean,
Yeah,
one
he's
imagines,
not
right?
going away.
Yeah. But if I don't know. I do, even though Florida's red, I haven't seen any polling. I would imagine most people in Florida are still in favor of some level of abortion access. And I do think the 6 weeks are probably not popular overall in Florida.
Yeah,
But
that's awful.
60% is rough though. So
6 weeks. Ugh.
study for $5 says Republicans demonize liberals because people advocating for gay marriage and abortion in the 90s and 2000s used that label. Use what label?
Liberals.
Well, I mean, Democrats have been calling themselves liberals, I think broadly in the 90s and 2000s, wasn't it? Was
They
was
used
it
to be
only people
liberal
that were
too.
people advocating for gay marriage and abortion? I thought it was every Democrat, but I don't remember. I was pretty young at the time. So, but that'd be interesting if that's the case.
Pro-choice and pro-gay marriages. I mean, those are liberal ideas. So
Of course. Callback for $10 says, I find it weird that there's a meltdown over Trump's position on abortion, being that his Supreme Court picks are the reason Roe v. Wade and Casey were overturned. Yeah, I don't. So the AP and some other liberal outlets, or left-wing outlets, I should say, are sort of trying to frame it like the right is having a complete meltdown over Trump's abortion video. I don't think that's what's happening. There definitely is rumblings. There definitely are people on the right that are unhappy with it. I don't think it's a meltdown, and I don't think it's going to hurt Trump. I don't think anyone who's like a super pro-lifer is going to say, oh, well, because Trump doesn't want a federal law, I'm not going to come out and vote for him. It's too hard for me to perceive that as being the case.
yeah, I'm gonna let
Like,
I'm gonna let
they're going to let
Biden
Biden
win.
continue. Yeah, exactly. Like, they're going to try to push Trump in that direction. Maybe they're going to maybe try to get Lindsey Graham or some of these other people to push a federal law, which could end up sabotaging the Republican chances to win. But I can't imagine that they would not vote for Trump on this issue.
Right.
So I think it's more of an issue of them sabotaging the rest of the Republican ticket or platform, I guess, that could hurt Trump, rather than them not coming out to vote for Trump. Brian, for $50, thank you, Brian, says, I agree that the right made fun of, quote, liberals, but the real problem is the left taking that name as their moniker. So whatever they do is in the name of liberalism, to the point that there are people who only know the term liberal means left-winger. Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. That is a good point. And that is the problem, is I don't know how to fix that. No one knows really how to fix that. And you could be correct. that it'd be more beneficial in our society if that never happened, or if we could just get the left to just not identify as liberal, so we could continue just having liberal mean the political philosophy of individual rights, so we could just clearly draw a distinction between that and socialism. But obviously that, you can't get the cows or the horses back into the barn sometimes.
The left has done its share of demonizing, though. Conservative is a dirty word for a lot of people. So
100%, it is. Yeah, it definitely is. It means racist, greedy racist. So.
Yep.
PC for 19 months of discipline equals freedom. Thank you. Says the TYT clip made me think of the quote, when two partners always agree, one of them is not necessary. Good partners should agree on things. Also, when are we getting the based Anna emoji?
Oh, yeah. I guess we do need an Anna
We do
emoji.
need a based Anna emoji. I mean, we have an Anna emoji, don't we?
I don't think so.
We should replace blonde AOC with like a based Anna.
We could. Yeah, definitely.
That's a good quote, too. Andrew Haskins for 15 months says, it would still be BLM rioting if Donald Trump was arrested. Wait, what? How does that make any sense? S-Class is a subsidiary of A-Team. Adam friended a family company. There you go.
Nice.
So.
I love it. All right. Finally, let's see this cringe. Now, wait a second here. Is this cringe?
So Adam, you haven't actually seen this video.
No, I haven't.
So the Biden campaign put this video out, I believe today or yesterday after Trump's video. I don't think it's cringe at all. I think it's actually very surprisingly well-crafted commercial. It's very emotional. It's very, I think, persuasive. It's a very interesting, persuasive tactic to hit Trump with the abortion stick after he came out with his, abortion comments.
Okay, well, I'm just going to ignore everything that I have to read off the screen.
Well, I'll read it for you if you want. Okay. I know you don't like reading a commercial. That's like,
well, look, this is bad advertising. You have to read the video. Right. Nothing like cutting your message and like down to 10% of
that's a good point.
Market saturation. Point. Yeah.
Right. So
look at the Democrats.
I will say the title of the video is really bad. Willow's box.
Okay.
I mean, box is a euphemism.
For a vagina.
Right. So
I'm wondering where's Willow's vagina at?
Right.
What's going on with Willow's vagina?
Not a great title.
This is like has to do something with abortion, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oof.
So this is one of our Willow boxes.
In 2022, Josh and Amanda were expecting their first baby, Willow.
Okay, this is even worse because not only do they have, you have to read the screen.
There's someone talking.
There's someone talking while I'm reading the screen.
I know.
They're not saying the words on the screen.
Well, as someone who's not dyslexic, I've never had a problem with that. So I can't comment. It's fine for me. Okay. I can listen to them. So it's like a very common thing. You can read really quick and then listen to what they're saying.
Advertising is about dumbing things down.
I know.
Right?
I know. I
agree.
Is
so stupid.
They're elitists. They're on the left, Adam. They don't understand.
Okay, well, look, your ad 90% of the population would be like, well, what? Okay.
So this is one of our Willow boxes. This is just filled with some of the things that we had started gathering for her while I was pregnant.
Yep.
Here's her little baby book.
At 18 weeks, Amanda's water broke and she had a miscarriage. So that's the woman who's talking.
Right. But so nobody's going to pay attention to that, though, because it's written on the screen. So just pretend that didn't happen.
It's the outfit that she was going to maybe wear home from the hospital.
Because Donald Trump killed Roe v. Wade, Amanda was denied standard medical care to prevent infection and abortion.
All of these.
Doctors were forced to send her home.
You're reading the screen, and I don't even know what's going on in this ad. This is like the worst ad ever.
Okay, well, I know this. For someone who is illiterate, I didn't even think about that. This would probably be not a very good ad. I think it's a very good ad if you're illiterate.
This is a terrible ad. What's going on here, guys? What's happening?
Well, okay. Let's just actually watch it before.
Okay.
We have to just literally.
This is one of our Willow boxes. This is just filled with some of the things that we had started gathering for her while I was pregnant.
Yep.
Here's her little baby book. This is the outfit that she was gonna maybe wear home from the hospital. out all of these. This is the blanket that she was in. And these are her little footprints.
It's okay. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Yeah, because you're a dipshit. This is the most confusing ad I've ever seen. This is the worst political ad.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too smart because I watched it and I instantly understood everything that was happening in the ad.
Look,
I wasn't
okay.
confused by it even remotely.
If you want to aim an ad
Yeah.
at fucking Mensa members, you got like
Well, thank you,
7
Adam.
people. You've got 7 people who are going to understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's going
This
on
ad
in the
is
ad?
stupid.
Right. So I guess I'll explain it to the dummies.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So what's going on in the
Explain
ad?
the ad.
Right. Is so this woman was pregnant. She her water broke early. She was gonna have some problem with the baby, and she's gonna have a miscarriage. And because of whatever state they're in, they had these very, very strict abortion laws, which sometimes, even if it's like the life of the mother, and we covered a case like this in the past, even if it says like there's an exception for the life of the mother, health, it can be very difficult sometimes to show, unequivocally that the life of the mother is at risk, or what exactly does life of the mother mean. And so a lot of facilities would still not want to provide an abortion even then. And apparently that, assuming that this is a true story, that's the case with her. And so
So she wanted to get an abortion?
no, she was pregnant. She wanted to have the
Okay.
baby. There was a problem with the baby. She had a miscarriage
Right.
and would require that she would have an abortion at that point to get
Okay.
the baby that's going to die or dying out of her, for her own health reasons. But the hospital didn't want to do it, so they actually sent her back home, which caused her to have sepsis and all these other health problems and have to rush back to the hospital 2 days later. And it was so bad.
She
the
went
fact
home
that
with the baby inside her.
yes, the dead or
Okay.
dying baby inside of her.
Okay.
And it was so bad because they didn't perform the abortion when they should have, that her insides have been so damaged by the slow operation that she'll probably never be able to have a child ever again.
See, look, Republicans would never make this mistake. They would be like, just doctor sent her home with a dead baby in her.
Right.
Like
Right.
it would be crystal clear what is going on here. Yeah.
Okay, so
It
that's
wouldn't
and
be
that's good.
complete
Right.
like garbage
Okay.
here. I'm supposed to figure out what the hell is going on.
Right, right. Well, okay, that's a good perspective. I forgot that I'm a hyper genius that can read and I can understand these things, and the average person doesn't understand any of this stuff.
Look,
But
it's not
okay.
like I couldn't figure it out, right?
I know.
I'm
just
not
teasing
I'm
you.
not going to figure it out in like and I'm not really even that invested in taking the time
Sure.
to figure it out. It's like, why is this
Right.
why is this woman crying?
No, you were
why should I
correct.
care? Who is this? Like, what happened here? Like this ad could read as this woman wanted to have an abortion and now she's crying because she couldn't get her abortion.
You're correct in terms of that these ads should be constructed in a way so that, because a lot of people are not going to sit down and watch the ad. They're going to see like a second of it, or like going to glance at it, when they're at the gym or in an airport
Well, they're
or something.
playing their video game.
Right, they're playing video games, so it has to be every part of the ad has to be clear enough that you understand the context. And that is a good point. And
Look,
there
when you
does
walk-
need to be
When this is
the
on
ad needs to be structured better. It is not structured in a good way. I do.
when
agree
this
with
is on CNN and you walk out of the room,
Yeah.
right? So you can finish making your dinner during the commercial break. You're not going to be able to see the screen to read what's going on. You're going to hear it in the other room and not have any idea what's going on.
that. Right. No,
This
that's
is so
that's true.
stupid, man.
That's true. Okay.
This is the worst political advertising ever.
So I agree with your criticisms. Okay, completely. But I think the concept that they're trying to go for is actually a good, and it's
if it was clear,
persuasive if
yeah,
it was clear.
of
Because
course.
the idea is, and this is what was interesting to me, instead of framing it like the typical left-wing way of saying, oh, it's, her choice, your body, your choice, blah, blah, blah. It was more, they're going to like, let's find a situation where a woman actually wants to have a baby and wants to have children in the future. And because she couldn't get an abortion, it's actually like hurt her ability to have a future. So it's kind of like an interesting twist, and like an interesting line of attack on sort of the anti-abortion argument.
Sure, let's find a fringe case anecdote that allows women to abort their babies en masse. It's a horrible argument. It's a terrible argument.
Okay, that's a very cynical and not the way that the average person would look at it. That's how a person on the right would look at it to dismiss the argument.
Of
Right?
course.
But that's not the way that if you're just a normie sitting there and you're just watching it, right? That's not how you're going to think about it.
You're going to think this could be me.
It's
if
exactly.
I understood what was going on.
It's like when we were talking about this yesterday, like when Donald Trump says like every legal expert says that I should have got rid of Roe v. Wade. Like obviously that's not true, right? But like we're not sitting there like, oh well, all the the normies gonna sit there and be like, oh okay, I guess that's true, right? They're not gonna be like, was that a fringe case? Is that a fact check?
Donald Trump is so overjoyed that his opposition is this incompetent.
Okay.
Look, I feel bad because I don't. I guess.
Well, no, I feel like you're so emotionally
like,
turned off because of the writing and because of the unclarity of the ad that you're not actually like
focusing on the argument
on whether it's a good argument or not, which I think it is a good argument, regardless of how many fringe cases it is, because we're not talking about that. We're talking about, is it a persuasive argument to like the average voter? And I do think this is a good way to frame the conversation to the average voter in an interesting and new way that is not really talked about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, taking out just a utter stylistic fail. I'm not sure this is I guess it is persuasive to women, but those women are already pro-choice. So I don't
because
think this
the
is moving people in the middle.
The idea is that you need to have, like even people, what they're trying to say is that even if you want to have a baby and you don't think you want an abortion, you still need to have access to abortion in case you have a medical emergency or medical reason that you need to get an abortion. And if you can't do that, then it could actually either A, kill you or prevent you from having children in the future. And most people aren't really thinking about that in the abortion conversation.
Now, why can't they just have the frontline narrator come out and say what you just said?
I understand.
That would be a powerful ad.
I agree. Okay, so that's the problem. So yeah, I agree. The style of the commercial bad, but the point, the thought behind it, which is not explained well in the commercial, I think is a good line of attack for the Democrats to open up in the abortion conversation.
Amanda wanted to have a baby so badly. That's what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump's abortion bill made that impossible.
You're right. No, that's true.
Yeah. Look, you're right. I can't get past this ad is just so horrible that I can't get past the fact that argument is completely just lost in the ad.
Right.
Like no one is going to walk away from this ad and think what you articulated. And so therefore, I mean, it's basically just a wash.
You're correct in terms of the style of the ad. So something that was other interesting that came out with after Trump's abortion comments that we watched yesterday was, everyone's talking about Lindsey Graham. Okay. He came out kind of sort of like he did like a soft against Trump here. Let's see if I can actually find, I had it open and then where is it? Where is he put up a series of, I think, tweets about this where he was saying like, I disagree with Donald Trump here. I respect Donald Trump, but I disagree with him. Here it is. So this is in response to Trump's comments about kind of leaving it up to the states to decide. Lindsey Graham tweeted out, I respectfully disagree with President Trump's statement that abortion is a states' rights issue. Dobbs does not require that conclusion legally, and the pro-life movement has always been about the well-being of the unborn child, not geography. The states' rights-only rationale today runs contrary to an American consensus that would limit late-term abortions and will age about as well as the Dred Scott decision.
Wow.
Look at that. The science is clear. A child at 15 weeks is well developed and is capable of feeling pain. I will continue to advocate that there should be a national minimum standard limiting abortion at 15 weeks because the child is capable of feeling pain with exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. However, until we achieve this goal, the least we can do is provide anesthesia to an unborn child facing abortion at 15 weeks because they can feel pain.
Anesthesia, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Therefore,
Go ahead.
Therefore, I'll be introducing new legislation requiring abortion providers to administer anesthesia to an unborn child, Anastasia, to an unborn child at 15 weeks
God.
because they're capable of feeling pain. It's common medical practice to administer to operate on an unborn child at 15 weeks to save their life. 47 of 50 European nations have national limits on abortion because between 12 and 15 weeks. This is a civilized world's position.
Yeah, I'm cool with 15 weeks. 15 weeks that's like 3 months and 2 weeks. I mean,
I
it's
think it
just
should be
like
higher
this,
than that. I'm always at consciousness.
right?
Conscious.
But consciousness is pretty close to 15 weeks.
No, it's like 20 weeks or something.
Yeah, but there could be some kids who are fast developers and they're conscious at 15 weeks. Shouldn't you be conservative?
I don't know if that's the case, but if that's I don't know if that is the case, but if
well,
it was the case,
there's
then
obviously
sure.
some variance between
right
different kids, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
I was
5 week variation. Though.
I
That's
wasn't.
pretty
I mean,
extreme.
I was like a 6-month baby. It didn't take me 9 months to.
You were 6 months preemie?
I was actually 10 months. I was super.
Oh,
late.
you were late.
I was lazy.
You were late. You're like, no, put me back in, okay?
Yeah, look. You could abort me at like 25 weeks. I wasn't doing anything. Anyway,
So Lindsey Graham kind of came out with a statement, and this has drawn a lot of mixed reaction to it because there are like the very, very pro-life people who are either in favor of this or actually think it doesn't go far enough. They do want a federal ban on it. And then there's a lot of people who, even if they're pro-life, they're more pragmatic, I should say, in wanting to win the election. And they kind of understand that, if the Republicans picked up the mantle of a federal abortion limitation or ban, would just really devastate their chances at the election, right?
Yeah, the 6 week is just. I mean, a lot of women will argue, look, they don't even know they're pregnant at 6 weeks. So
yes.
You figure out you're pregnant 4 weeks in, and then you got 2 weeks to schedule your abortion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems impossible.
Right. Yeah, obviously 6 weeks doesn't make sense to me too. But how do you feel about the whole like states' rights? I mean, states should decide it. The politics of the situation about, advocating to the pro-life people versus the pragmatism of Donald Trump winning the election, blah, 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 blah.
How do I feel personally about it? Or
well, I
is
mean,
it
what
a
do you
good
what do you think
political
makes
strategy?
I mean, obviously you're pro-choice, so I know how you feel about it personally.
Yeah, I'm pro-choice, and I do think
Right.
there should just be a federal standard. I don't want to get into the complications of people crossing state lines. I don't want people to be a prisoner of the state that they live in, right?
Right.
So they can't seek medical treatment outside of the state because of these weird abortion laws. Everyone's trying to. I mean, this is the whole point of federal law.
Right.
So I think we should come up with a standard that is conservative. Like, I think the 15 weeks is conservative. Like, I agree with you on the consciousness thing, but it's just like, my ultimate goal is to make sure that the abortions are accessible to the people that need them. And I do agree with, like, maybe you could have an abortion at 20 weeks and it would be fine because of the consciousness standard. But why not just have it at 15 weeks? Why not just be conservative? I mean, 15 weeks seems like plenty of time. 3 months, 2 weeks, you're pregnant in like a month and you get your stuff worked out. You got like 2.5 months to schedule an abortion. Doesn't that seem pragmatic to you? And then look, you can say, look, I agree with Lindsey Graham. Okay. I'm pro-choice and I agree with Lindsey Graham.
I'm going to say 18 weeks just to split the baby here. Both metaphorically and literally.
Why the thing? Okay, so what is the extra 3 weeks by?
Well, no, I've never been in a situation and I haven't researched it or read up about it. I don't know what Like how long does it take the average woman to know she's pregnant? How long does it take to like plan to get an abortion, make the decision? Like I don't know how long any of that stuff takes, right? So I could understand that it could take people a long time, or maybe on average, people come up with the idea pretty quick. And that could definitely change my feeling on it. And I do agree that we need a compromise because this is an issue that people will not agree on in this country.
Of course.
And when you have an issue like that, well, people feel very strongly about it, but will not agree on it. You have to come up with a compromise. That's the only way to exist without having physical violence where one person kind of enacts their physical violence against another one. And it was kind of hilarious to me to see both Hassan and what's that guy's name? Michael Tracy, who have like this weird position on this, where they were both attacking the Republicans and Lindsey Graham kind of saying, well, if they actually believed abortion was murder, they wouldn't be willing to make any of these exceptions, 6 week,
Well,
15
that
week,
guy's a jackass. Like, why would
murder.
he say that? Remember
Right.
what you're saying about Scott Adams talking about leaving people an avenue of retreat? What the fuck?
Right, right. And I'm like, okay, what? I mean, Hassan and Michael are totally missing here. I mean, obviously Hassan's a political radical, so I guess it makes sense. And Michael Tracy just seems like a blatant contrarian and is like his normal operating procedure. But is that when you do have these positions, like I said, when you have this, people feel very, very strongly about being pro-choice or pro-life, and they're willing to basically come to physical blows about it. The only way to avoid that is people just have to compromise in a way that maybe not everyone's happy about, right? You have to compromise to basically keep society together, which is more
Right.
important for most people,
Yeah,
than
when you got
this one
Lindsey
issue.
Graham talking about a compromise, like, why are you
Right.
like, you shouldn't compromise?
Right.
Fuck you.
Well, okay, but here's what's interesting, because Donald Trump was, in response to this, attacked Lindsey Graham and called him a big fat idiot.
Why? Like, look, Donald Trump's position is a compromise position.
Yeah, but Donald Trump's position was to give it to the states. And
Right.
Lindsey Graham is saying he wants some kind of federal law. Okay?
Right.
So Donald Trump, in response to that, said, Senator Lindsey Graham is doing a great disservice to the Republican Party and to our country. At first, he wanted no abortions under any circumstance. Then he was up to 6 weeks where you're allowed an abortion. Now he's up to 15 weeks where you're allowed an abortion. But what he doesn't understand, or perhaps he does, is that the radical left Democrats, who are destroying our country, will never approve anything that he or the Republicans want. They love this issue, and they want to keep it going for as long as Republicans will allow them to do so. Terminating Roe v. Wade was, according to all legal scholars, a great event. According to all legal scholars. But sometimes
He did it again.
he did it again. But sometimes, look, he does a Spider-Man too. But sometimes, with great events comes difficulties. Many good Republicans lost elections because of this issue, and people like Lindsey Graham that are unrelenting are handing Democrats their dream of the House, Senate, and perhaps even the presidency.
Wow.
So that was Trump's response to that.
That
It's
was
kind of
amazing.
it's kind of interesting too, because I know when people have talked about this in the past and when we've talked about it, we've seen like pro-life people say like, you can't compromise on your principles. You can't compromise on murder, blah, 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 blah. And then I see a lot of other pro-life people 100% taking Donald Trump's position, which is
Yeah,
kind
because
of
they want to
fascinating.
win.
Because they want to win, right?
Yeah.
Right. This is funny. It's just, okay, I guess when it comes from Trump, suddenly it changes people's opinion, or because they just want to win really badly.
Yeah.
But so I do think this is interesting, and I think in terms of a strategy perspective, obviously Donald Trump, I think, is correct here. And also it's very difficult too because the Republicans have been pushing the let states decide like thing for, I don't know, my entire life. So for at least 30-ish years, I've heard them, let the states decide. And so it would be completely hypocritical to suddenly turn around and have this federal law. But here's the thing, and this is another thing I want to ask you about. Isn't the whole let the states decide thing, hasn't that always been kind of bullshit? I think there's like, of all the people that have made the argument of letting the states decide, I think 10%, only 10% of those people actually believe in some kind of principled position about letting the states decide because they believe that, having these decisions made on a local level, this specific decision for some reason made on a local level is better than being made on a federal level. When in reality, I think that 90% of the people making that argument, they're only making that argument because they know that they'll lose on the issue on a federal level. It's not because they actually believe in some kind of principled philosophy that for some reason this specific issue should be decided by closer to home elections.
Right, unless they are libertarians who want to do everything locally. Because
Yeah,
then the
that's what
principle
that's
is
the 10%
really,
I'm
yeah,
referring to, right?
yeah, yeah.
Libertarians are the minority in this country.
Yeah, no, I agree. Most people are just like, well, yeah, we are going to lose federally, so let's just keep it in the house where we can win.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, this is just my intuition here, but I feel pretty confident in it. If the pro-life people that were been saying for, 40 years, to let the states decide, if they had a strong sense that the federal government would pass a abortion law that was favorable to them to outlaw abortion, I don't think the overwhelming majority of those people would have been ever making this let the states decide argument in the first place.
Well, it is interesting though to see how this is going to play out because obviously, Florida did this 6-week ban, which I do think over time is going to play out in people getting kicked out of office for doing that because I don't think the
Right.
population really wants that, even though I think
Mhm.
a vocal minority wants that votes. So people are trying to cater to that minority. But the majority who doesn't want that, who doesn't vote, well, they're going to start voting. They're going to be like, "Fuck this!
Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna vote these bastards out of office."
Mhm.
And then the position, it's going to go up. It's going to be 10 weeks. It's going to be 50. Pretty soon, it's going to be all the states are basically revolving around that 15 to 20 week mark. And then at
Mhm.
that point, what's stopping? Why not just codify it into federal law, right? Everyone kind of has agreed. I don't think this. And maybe I'm naive here. Maybe this is the case, but I don't think Alabama can just ban all abortions, and that's the Alabama electorate is going to be like, yeah,
Well,
that's great.
I think doing a federal law will be difficult because on the right, like even doing this like 15-week ban, I think would be difficult because a lot of people on the right would be like, why the hell are you only doing 15 weeks? You
Yeah,
should
they
have
want to
federal law that
ban,
says no,
but
right?
that's the vocal minority, though.
Yeah, but uh, they're a powerful influence in the Republican Party, kind of like the way that wokeness is a powerful, even though they're a minority, a vocal minority, they're a powerful influence in the Democrat Party, right? There's like the super pro-life people
They're
are like
not
a
the
big,
kingmakers.
no, but they're a big source of funding. They're a big energy magnet in the Republican Party.
Sure,
And
yeah.
so if the Republicans passed this federal law that was a 15-week ban, that they would get like really triggered by that. So I don't think the Republicans are really incentivized from their position to pass something like that, to pass it, because if it's too lax, it's going to piss off a lot of their base. And if it's too strict, they're going to all lose the next election cycle. But then I don't think the Democrats have a good incentive to pass a federal law either, because they have the opposite problem. If they pass a 15 or 20 week or like, because Joe Biden's position is that he wants to basically codify the Roe v. Wade, which was like what, 22, I think,
Mm-hmm.
Or 24 something. He wants to codify that in the federal law. And if you do that, there's a contingency of Democrats that are going to be like, oh, what, why, there should be no restrictions whatsoever, right? So I guess
Yeah.
they could have a little bit more wiggle room. So maybe actually, I take it back. Maybe the Democrats, what they could do if they had enough votes to do this, and that's always the key here, is that they would if they had like a supermajority, which is highly unlikely, they would structure a law that would say, no state can ban abortion before this date, but that would still allow states to increase the length of time, right?
Right.
That's what they would do to kind of get around that, to wiggle around that. But then that would never get any Republicans on board to sign up with them. And so they would only be able to do that if they have a supermajority, which seems unlikely. So I don't know, it seems very unlikely to me that there will be any federal law about this issue anytime soon.
Do you
That'd be
get
my
the
guess.
sense that the 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 powers that be, the Democrats and the Republicans, kind of want to put this issue to bed, or do you think they want to keep it alive? It's like it's such a. I mean, it's really difficult to tell if it's hurting more or helping more. And I think usually they want to keep issues alive that are just like a clear win for them.
Well, it's interesting. So like, you had, a month ago or so, the Republicans basically didn't want to vote for that immigration bill because they just want to have the issue still roiling for the
Yeah,
election
exactly.
because like
Because it's a
just a
clear win for them.
right. It's a clear win for them. It's a clear boon for them, to have that issue going. I think abortion with the Democrats is the same thing. The Democrats don't want to settle the abortion issue. They want it to be this continual thing because they think it's their best shot of winning the presidency in elections. And I think they're correct that it's their best shot completely is the abortion issue. The Republicans are in an interesting position because I think the Republicans that are on the federal level, okay, in federal Congress and in running for president, they want this issue to go away. They
Yeah.
understand how bad it is for them. They just want it to disappear, right?
It's so
You know,
interesting that it was such a clear win for them when they could just say, "Oh, our hands are tied," right? Supreme
exactly.
Court.
Right, right. But where I think this is where the conflict comes. The local Republicans still think that the issue helps them. So this is kind of the conflict. The local Republicans in the various states think that they can run super pro-life and it's going to help them, and maybe it will, depending on what state they're in.
Right.
And so they want to push this issue so hard, even though it hurts the Republican on a nationwide level. And so that's where the conflict is. It's kind of the federal versus the state. It's helping the party on the state level, hurting on the nationwide level, and that's where this conflict is kind of coming out of that.
Yeah, you're in a 100% evangelical district. You're like, hell yeah, federal ban.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
But I don't know how gerrymandered those districts are because I mean, there could be districts that are gerrymandered just specifically around the issue of abortion.
Well, it's
So that's like
interesting.
the one issue keeping the person alive.
I know there was a Crystal and Soccer video where they were talking about how even in very red states or very red districts, there has been a lot of shifting on the abortion issue. And even in places you wouldn't expect, like Alabama and Tennessee, and I think Kentucky and other red areas, there were Democrats that were able to win on the abortion issue.
Yeah, see, that's my intuition is that if you leave it up to the states, all of the states are going to revolve around that 15 to 20 week mark. And then there's
Eventually.
really no resistance for a
Mhm.
federal law if all the states are basically pretty close to agreement.
Yeah, if that happens, but that would take, 20 years probably.
Yeah, it might take 20 years,
Sure,
but what the
sure.
heck? We've been arguing about this for 50 years.
That's true. And there was they brought up a poll, it's a Fox News poll, and it showed how from 2022 to 2024, the position on abortion actually changed. This is from Fox poll, where now it wasn't that way in 2022, but in 2024, more than half the response to the poll were in favor of some level of abortion
Really?
in the country. Yeah.
On Fox News? Okay.
On a Fox News poll. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. And this could be one of those scenarios of like the be careful what you wish for because you got it and people don't like it situation. Right. Because
Well, it's
I
like the
think
virtue signal. They're like,
it
they
is
can
exactly,
say, yeah,
right.
look, I hate all abortion. Even in the case of rape and incest, I'm a good evangelical. And then all of a sudden it's like, oops.
Yeah, because we could have a situation where, as I said, there's that kind of disconnect where like a lot of people in local Republicans think it's good to run super pro-life, but then that could actually maybe people end up not liking it in practice, and that can end up backfiring on them. So we'll see. It'll be very interesting how this all shakes out.
Yeah. Interesting development.
Yes. Okay.
You want to read some super chats, or I guess
Yeah.
we have another. Do we have another story, or I don't
We
think
have
maybe we
potentially other stories if
don't. Okay.
there's things you want to talk about. What else did I send you?
I'm just looking at what I put in the title.
We could watch that clip. It's only like a minute long from The View of
Oh, okay.
the woman thinking that like all these things are from climate change, and Whoopi Goldberg's like trying to tell her like the STFU. It's like it's just a hilarious interaction.
We got pretty much everything I put in the title, so
Right. Okay.
I just thought, I guess these two stories kind of melt together: the Trump's abortion and the
Yeah,
Biden
that was
ad.
the point.
We'll see if this Biden ad moves the polls.
Drew the Dogma for 2 hours says, so people who get abortions wanted babies. Yeah, that's what the ad is saying, and that definitely happens. That's exactly it.
Right.
Spencer Hartman for $20. Thanks so much. Says, what the fuck? Where are all the likes? Come on, guys. Like the stream. Thank you so much, Spencer, for the $20. That's right. Slam that like button.
Yeah, we're up to 117 likes. Yes.
Right.
Yes. But every time we get another like, that means one less miscarriage in the world, guys. We need to save those babies. We got to get those birth rates up, guys. Please.
There you go.
Hit that like button. We don't want any more miscarriages. It's all on you now. Okay.
Right. Nomad for $5 says, look, just the fact that Sitch explained the Biden ad shows the ad failed. Still sad, though. Yeah, that's true. That's why it's useful that's why I need Adam here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just too big brained and I like watch these things. I'm like, oh, it makes perfect sense.
Have you seen a face in the crowd? I probably shouldn't bring this up because look, obviously I don't think of myself as a retard or anything.
Yeah.
What was that? What's going on there? What happened?
I was putting in the video that we're going to watch.
Oh, okay.
You can bring up the still.
Obviously I don't when we're talking about the video, look, I didn't get it on the first time through. I'm confident that I could figure it out if I gave two shits.
Right.
But that is why I'm coming at it with the perspective of the average voter who doesn't give
care.
two fucking turtle shits about this ad.
You're right.
Like this ad is coming on, but first of all, this ad is interrupting a show that I want to watch. So I'm already at like, what the heck is this?
You mean it's interrupting a YouTube video because it's going to be an ad that plays before your video. When
Sure. Look, and you're skipping this ad. You're like, what the heck?
Right.
Yeah. The Democrats are so out of their depth when it comes to advertising. And you can go back and just look at the history of political campaigns, right? You remember the Willie Horton ad? Republicans they're in your face. Dude, this guy got out of jail and killed a bunch of people.
Right.
This is the pillow I had. It's like, come on, please.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at it from the average voter's perspective. So
no.
Yeah. And it's not really it's not about stupidity as much as just
interest level.
Yeah, interest level.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think the Democrats they're making these ads. This ad is made for
Democrats.
For Democrats to play on like Joe Scarborough or Joy Reid or something, which they're saying, look at how good this ad is, and then you're like really paying attention to it. Oh, it's a great ad, right?
Yeah, all those people who are watching
who are not going to vote for Trump anyway, so it's
exactly.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. This is what they need the normie whisperers on the Biden marketing team staff, and they don't have them.
They do, yeah.
They don't have them.
They need to hire some kingmakers.
Brian for $10 says, I call BS. How can the medical experts not remove the dead baby? That's not an abortion at that point, as they are not killing the already dead baby. Sounds like they should sue the hospital. So it's not BS because we actually talked about it. Wasn't that case? I don't think it was that case. We've talked about cases similar in the past on stream where basically the baby's not dead, but it's dying or it's in some kind of bad limbo-ish position. In the way that a lot of these various states have these exception to life of the mother requirements is that doesn't include if the mom has potential to be damaged or sick, and it doesn't include whether the baby is going to be potential sick. And so the requirement of life of the mother is so strict that the hospitals can very often not want to deal, with anything unless it's very clear that the woman is going to die. And there have been multiple cases, we've covered them, that has definitely happened across the country, including cases where then the woman's uterus is basically destroyed because of whatever. The problem was that it was too late. So that is 100% happened.
Donald Trump destroyed Willow's box.
There you go.
Oh, I think it was Amanda's box, so.
It was, yeah. Gene the Angry Penguin for $5 says, this also is more about a bad hospital than the end of Roe v. Wade. It's playing on ignorance of the viewer, the actual legal issues. You guys, we covered this. I guess you just don't remember. This has completely been covered. This is the problem when you have these overly broad, vague laws written by politicians who don't really care or know the nuances of a lot of medical procedures, and things like this happen. So. Smokey for $5 says, now that The Rock has given his no endorsement stance, how will not having celebrity Hollywood endorsements help or hurt Biden? Will others follow?
Oh, wow.
I don't
That's
think,
awesome.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be that many people that do that. I mean, at least from what I see, the majority of celebrities are still like very, very deep in the TDS realm of Trump being Hitler incarnate. So I'm skeptical that there'll be some huge wave of celebrities coming out pro-Trump or just not voting, period. I mean, I
Hmm.
think you'll have a handful, maybe they'll come out maybe in response to The Rock, or they'll trickle out over the months, but I don't think it's gonna have a substantial impact on the election, really. Do you think that people vote because a celebrity they like is in favor of someone? Do you think that actually has an impact on things?
Well, is it PSA Sitch? Of course, I'm going to vote however
Yeah.
PSA Sitch votes.
I
I
don't know.
mean,
I'm kind of skeptical. Because I feel like people just kind of write off celebrity endorsements nowadays, and they have for like the last 20 years. So I
is
don't
it
know.
pondering politics? I mean, of course, I'm.
There you go. The Golden Pepper, thanks so much for joining Freedom Seekers. Jonathan Smith for $5 says, I think let the states decide is a good compromise between two opposing positions. I don't think anyone really wants that way, which makes it good. Well, there's an interesting, and you didn't quite say this, but here's an interesting, you made me think about this. The let the states decide could be a good position to have in terms of like, we have this issue, no one can decide on the issue. It's very polarizing. So let the states decide because, you want to have areas where people feel more strongly about it. And one way, let them make a decision, you know, in their local election so that it's more like closer to the polarizing population. So I think that that'd be a good argument in favor of letting the states decide. I don't, but the problem I think that the Republicans kind of ran into is that when they've been hitting the let the states decide issue for like my entire life, I don't remember them ever giving their explanation for that. What was the explanation for that they were been giving for the last 30 years about let the states decide?
The states' rights issue. I
Was it a
mean,
states'
is it?
rights issue, or is it just because yeah, actually that's what it always like the way that I always heard of it was they would criticize
It's like a
the
federalism thing.
yeah, they would criticize the legal argument of it's not really in the Constitution, so therefore you have to let the states decide, which could be true, but that's not a very emotionally powerful, persuasive, or good argument for people to kind of grab onto, right?
Yeah, it's tough with these issues that cross state lines. I mean, obviously, if you're going to do, let the states decide on gay marriage. Okay, so you're married in California, you're not married in Alabama. It's like, and
hmm
people can travel to get married and then come home and their marriage is not recognized. It's like so many of the issues. It just,
Well, that would actually, in a logical perspective, be would the gay marriage thing makes less sense on a state issue than abortion because abortion, like when you're married, you're in a constant state of being married or not married. You exist in that state until you don't, right? Where in your abortion, it's just you just a one time you get an abortion, then you're not, that's it, right?
Sitch, you are a lifetime murderer. I don't know how you look. I didn't want to kill it.
Okay,
Murder is illegal in this state. I went
right.
the state over and killed my wife.
There you go.
I came home and I'm safe.
Listen, I
Come on,
mean, if it's the
Sitch.
case, that's pretty based, right?
No, there's nothing based about murder, Sitch.
It depends
I
who you're
mean, that's the
murdering. What do
way
you
that
mean? Depends who you're murdering.
this is the way the people look at abortion, though. Of course,
I understand.
you're going to go home a murderer.
I understand, but you understand what I mean when I say like when you're married, you're in a constant state of being married until you get divorced,
Right.
right? Where if when you get an abortion, you get an abortion and then
You're a
you're not
constant
in a
state of
constant state of getting an abortion, right? It's just a
no,
one-time
but
act.
you're a murderer now.
Okay, but that's a completely different, that has nothing to do with what I'm saying, right? That's a
I
completely
know,
different
I get
situation,
it.
right?
I get it.
Okay. Uh, Gamulus for 24 months. Look at that. The Golden Pyramid. Thank you so much for 2 years. Says just sending this to see my pyramid. Don't mind me.
Oh,
Wormy. Look at that with a
Wormy's
wormy emoji. Look at that.
Wormy's not here
Golden
right now.
Pyramid. Yes.
Suspicious. Thank you though. Yeah.
TO1524 for $10 says, what if the right just gets a majority pass at 15-week, call it Roe, and take away the issue from the Dems? What do you think? What do y'all thinking will happen? Um,
They want that desperately.
I don't think it would 15. Well, because 15 weeks isn't Roe. Roe was 22 or 24 or
24
something.
weeks, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it. I don't know. It's an interesting question.
Oh, wait.
I think a lot of the country would be fine with 15 weeks. But the thing is, because you know how I said how the Democrats would frame the law so it'd say, okay, we're gonna have it so it's gonna be Roe like 24 weeks, but individual states can make it longer if they want, right? Up until the moment of birth. That'd be the way the Democrats would frame the law. The way that Lindsey Graham and the Republicans that want this are framing the law is they're saying it would be a 15-week maximum. And if a state wants to be more strict, they can be more strict, right? And that wouldn't solve the problem that you're talking about because then the Democrats would, and the rest of the country would still get all crazy about it because they say, oh, you're imposing this maximum limit of 15 weeks, but all these other states can have even stricter and stricter and stricter, timeline to nothing. And so it
Yeah,
wouldn't
that's
really
not a
solve the
solution.
issue, right? The only way to like now if hypothetically Lindsey Graham or someone else was just saying, okay, what if it's just 15 weeks and that's like that's the no state can have before 15 weeks, no state can have after 15 weeks. Now that's interesting. That could, even though I think a lot of Democrats wouldn't be happy with that, they'd want it to be longer, and a lot of Republicans would want it to be shorter or non-existent. That could be an interesting kind of splitting the baby, literally, metaphorically, position that would, I think you're probably right. It would deflate a lot of the energy out of the issue and would overall hurt the Democrats in terms of federal elections.
Dude, I never want to talk about abortion again. I think that's where I want the rest of the electorate to be. I just want them to forget about it. Just get out of people's lives. Like set it at a place that's reasonable and let's just move on like all of Europe has done. Why has this got to be an issue? We got more important things to worry about. Right?
Right.
Oh, anyway.
Neocon Sitch for $5 says this is so dumb because rarely the law doesn't work. Because rarely the law doesn't network. Oh, I think. Oh, there's just you spelled it. There's a typo. Doesn't work the way it's intended. There should be no law. So a good way to like see that you're kind of entering cognitive dissonance is when you hear something someone says and you have to go to the Kathy Newman perspective where you start to say things that they didn't say. So one of the criticisms that we and many people throw at the left is like, okay, so the left has a feeling about, they want to like help people. They want to help poor people or something. And so they'll pass some kind of law that has an intention behind it. But then the way the actual law comes into practice ends up causing more problems, right? It makes people maybe too dependent on, welfare or whatever, or the social program ends up not actually helping the people that want to be helped, blah, 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 blah. And you say, okay, well, we need to be more like pragmatic and say, okay, we passed a law, we have this intention. It didn't work the way we want it to work, so now we need to go back and change the law. And it's the same thing with this abortion for medical reasons thing, is that the way the law in some of these states work, it's not working. It's creating too many problems where women that actually do have real medical concerns that we all agree are real medical concerns, and we can see because they have really bad medical outcomes, are not able to get the help they need, not able to get an abortion that's medically necessary quick enough. So obviously that means that they need to go back and fix the law to shore that up, right? That would be the actual way to deal with it, as opposed to just kind of hand waving it away.
Which political faction cares more about unintended consequences?
The right, generally.
Yeah.
So that's
of course.
the thing you think they would. So.
Yeah.
Jonathan Smith for $5 says Willow ad very bad because it states abortion and Roe. The average American doesn't equate that with prenatal care. Layman terms is getting rid of. Well, I agree with Adam's position that the ad doesn't work for that reason. I don't really agree with your conception of it. I think people do care about this stuff, but
they do care a lot. Obviously they don't want to think, oh, this could happen to me. I might want to have a family someday and I could be in this horrible situation and this law could stand in the way of me getting competent health care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, put an ad together that is easy to understand. This could be a home run. Yeah. This could be you. This could be you.
Brian Fadar says miscarriage means the baby is dead. So in this case, how can the hospital not remove the dead baby? No law requires the dead baby to remain in the mom. Well, I don't
Yeah,
know. I have to look
that's
at the specifics because they might have just used the word miscarriage in the ad to sort of try to get people to understand it. Because you're right, if the baby is just dead, then why would it not be removed? It doesn't make sense. Um, but you have to actually look at what the case is exactly to see why it is that the hospital wouldn't remove it. Because I'm looking up now, I'm trying to look it up now because I don't know specifics either. It is in Texas, and Texas does have very, very strict laws against abortion. So,
oh man. All the people fleeing from California to Texas, and now all of a sudden you're in a state that's like abortion Nazi land.
Mhm.
Terrible.
Right.
That's got to be tough.
It says that something about, let's see, she was denied abortion care after she experienced preterm pre-labor rupture of membranes at 18 weeks of pregnancy, was denied abortion because her hospital could still, because her doctors still could detect a fetal cardiac activity. 3 days later, she showed signs of infection and was diagnosed with sepsis. Although the doctors then performed an emergency-induced abortion, she spent the next 3 days fighting for her life. So I don't know what a premature rupture of membranes means exactly. I don't know what any
That's
of that
so
means.
brutal.
Right.
God, someone could make a great ad out of this story if they knew what they were doing.
Right. True, true. Christian Baller for $5 says, have either of you been following the Apple River stabbing trial?
I have not, but
No,
if it's interesting,
I don't know anything about it.
we got to get Christian Baller on the show, but I think we have a short week this week, so.
Yeah, we might, so we'll see. Okay,
All right.
let's watch this clip. So this is kind of a funny clip. I think I'm at the right spot here. Let me go ahead. So this is The View. Everyone loves The View. Talking about the eclipse. Okay, Sunny Hostin was the name of the lady I forgot the other day. Sunny just seems to be like a spring, a well of the worst possible ideas and takes ever.
Yeah, she loves it. She's the CRT girl. She's the
She
one that's
is.
like, don't take away my victimhood,
Yeah,
bitch.
Sunny was the one that was arguing with Coleman Hughes,
Right.
when he was on. So,
I get discriminated against in the store all the time.
right.
Me, super rich, very attractive woman.
Yeah. Right, right.
I always get the racism.
Okay, so let's see what she says about the eclipse.
All right. I mean, I have to say, Karen Dupiche, our wonderful, one of our wonderful makeup artists, when the earthquake was happening, she put her coat on and she was like, Jesus is coming.
I'm out.
I'm out. I'm leaving. We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming.
Cicadas.
Although I love
for the first time in
cicada, cicada.
like
What? I mean, Whoopi Goldberg has like a full-on mohawk now.
I know. I know.
Like so.
But there's an interesting dynamic that goes on here.
No,
100 years.
no.
Two different. Well, this is what I read.
There's two different kinds of cicadas.
Yes, two different times are coming.
So this is what this makes me think. Okay. Whoopi seemed pretty quick to interrupt here.
Yeah.
And it's because, so Sonny's about to kind of blame this all on climate change. This makes me think that they had this conversation before the show.
Right.
In a green room somewhere, where Sonny was like testing the waters with this idea about the cicadas or the earthquake or the eclipse having something to do with climate change. And Whoopi was like, "Are you fucking stupid? It has nothing to do with anything." And she tried to talk Sonny backstage off of like, this is my theory. She tried to talk Sonny backstage off of bringing this up on the air because it's just so dumb. And Sonny she wouldn't take no for an answer. She's like, nope, I'm gonna do it. The crowd will support me. The people will support me. And Whoopi's like, oh God, oh no.
That's a good theory.
Because just look how Whoopi just jumps in so quick.
Look at that expression Whoopi has.
Right. Even though, what the hell is she wearing? What is this outfit?
Oh my God, here we go. She's like, here we go.
Yeah.
First time in like
No,
100 years.
no.
Two different. Well, this is what I read.
There's
Two different times.
two different kinds of
Yes,
cicadas.
two different times are coming.
The good cicadas and the bad
But
cicadas.
for the first time in many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe maybe you know better. But
in a
will
way,
say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists,
That's more
or
the
something
point.
is really going on.
returning.
So wait, we have an eclipse, okay? We have an eclipse, which is when the moon goes in front of the sun. We have an earthquake, which has to do with tectonic plates shifting, and you have cicadas, which are on different yearly cycles. I think it's like there's like one that's on a 17, and there's one that's like on like a 13 or a 20-year cycle or something.
Oh,
And
really?
so, yeah, something like that. And so obviously just through the power of math, eventually you're going to get a year where those numbers are going to line up, right?
Right. You're going to have both
At the same time.
breeds of cicadas come out at the same
Right.
time.
If you don't know what we're talking about, there's cicadas are horrible insects that make horrible loud sounds, and some cicadas do this weird thing where they go underground and exist as larvae for like 13, 17, 20 years. And then when they're finally reach some level of maturity, they all come out in like these massive, massive swarms, and they all, mate and be super loud and obnoxious. And then they go underground, and then they die, and then their offspring goes underground again. And that's
These
kind
are
of
the
what they're talking
plagues
about.
from the Bible, right?
Sure. Now, unfortunately for me, in Florida, where I live, and this is like recent, in the last 5 years, there's some kind of cicada that never used to exist when I was a kid that exists now. I'm assuming it's some kind of invasive species where it's not on the cycle. It exists forever, constantly, and it's the loudest, most annoying, horrible fucking cicada ever. And it only is at night. It's not during the day. Like when you think of like the stereotypical cicada, you think of like the kind of like summer sound during the day with the And this is like, imagine the cicada sound you're thinking of, but just super loud in one note that just doesn't break for like an hour in the middle of the night. Just, it's like, it's the worst fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
You hear them in Las Vegas a lot. They're just like,
yeah, you're like, oh my
shut up.
I know. If it was like the like the one that kind of goes on and off, that's okay. I can deal with that, right? If it's during the day, fine. But it's like in the middle of the night, you hear this like, oh my God, and they're so loud. It's awful.
Yeah.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground.
No.
I don't think that
it happens.
How about the
And
warming of the planet?
the eclipse, they've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen. So all these folks who are...
God. Is she blaming the eclipse on climate change?
Yeah, Sonny did.
Really?
She said, well, you have the eclipse, you have the cicadas, and you have the earthquake, so you have climate change or maybe something else happening, like some kind of end of the world, or some sort of like spiritual event or something.
Oh my God, that's so insane.
Look, listen. Here, wait, go back to what Sonny's saying.
happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe maybe you know better. But
in
I
a
will
way,
say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists,
that's more
or
the
something
point.
is really going on.
returning.
Did climate change exist, or something's really going on, Adam? Okay.
Eclipse, linking an eclipse to climate change. That's a whole new level of stupid, Sitch.
I wish I was there, because I want to ask you, like, okay, can you explain the process to me of what, like, how climate change would affect an eclipse? Like physically, like what's the physical process there in play?
How does lowering your carbon footprint stop the eclipse from coming? That's what I want to know.
Well, okay, let me think. So like when you put a bunch of carbon in the air, it changes like the density of the atmosphere, right?
You sure? Okay.
It changes the weight of the atmosphere, right? And so if our atmosphere is more dense because it has more carbon in it,
there's no way you can get there, man.
Listen,
Seriously.
Wait, hold on. Okay. I have to pretend I'm an idiot.
Right,
okay.
Yeah. Look, the moon is passing in front of the fucking sun. It's not even happening in the atmosphere.
So So we have all this carbon in the atmosphere, which changes the atmospheric conditions
Does
on
Sonny think
Earth.
the moon is in our atmosphere? That's
Right.
what I
Well,
want to
hold
ask.
on, hold on. And so therefore that changes the chemical composition and the density of our atmosphere. So therefore that makes me think I don't understand how gravity works. So if the atmosphere is heavier, that actually somehow increases the gravity of Earth. And so the gravity of Earth pulls the moon quicker around the planet,
Okay.
thus making an eclipse happen.
It's all this heavy carbon in the atmosphere.
Yes. All this very gravity-inducing carbon in our atmosphere is pulling the moon.
Slowing our Earth down.
Because think about it, Adam, it doesn't make any sense. The moon only comes out at night. Normally, right?
Right, yeah.
So therefore, it must be
guess.
climate change that's increasing our gravity, pulling the moon to come across the Earth during the day and thus blot out the sun. Obviously, that's what's going on here.
Let me just Google moon during the day and see what I see.
No. That's a conspiracy.
Let
If
me
you ever
just
see a
take a
picture
look
of the
here.
moon during the day, that's not real. It's
Let
just
me
a
just see.
conspiracy. Okay. Obviously, we all know the moon only comes at night, right?
I mean, I believe I see the moon during the day quite often.
No, what you see is what NASA wants you to see.
Okay. That's a conspiracy too. I
Right.
want to ask Sonny, do you believe the moon is in Earth's atmosphere? Like that is the question I want to ask.
I wish they had asked her. I'd been like, Sonny, what, like, explain, how are those things connected?
This is look,
Laid out for me.
Your theory is so apt here. I can just imagine Whoopi backstage like, no, girl, please do not give them this win.
Yeah, because from Whoopi's perspective, it's either A, she's Sonny's friend and doesn't want Sonny to look like a complete retard, which she does, and everyone's making fun of her for the saying this. Or even if she doesn't like Sonny, she's like, okay, Whoopi believes in climate change. She knows this is going to be used to like, attack the climate change issue. So she's like, no, Sonny, don't do it. Don't do it, Sonny, no.
This just makes the climate change denialists look like geniuses, super geniuses. Yes.
And then also obviously the plate tectonics. How does climate change affect that?
Plate tectonics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does climate change affect that?
Not really. It doesn't.
If
anything, the plate tectonics affects climate change because there's a lot of, when these events happen, a lot of carbon can be released.
Right.
Well, I don't know if carbon is released.
Well,
I
that's
don't know what the gases
like earthquakes.
Particulate
I don't know.
matter can be released.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, from volcanoes, yeah. But
yeah.
Okay, I got it. Okay. You have a bunch of carbon in our atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
And so like what happens is since we have all this carbon in our atmosphere, like it wants to go somewhere, it's trapped. And so if there's little holes in the ground, all of the toxic carbon and global warming gases like start filling up the holes in the earth. And then that like fills up the earth in a bad way that normal air doesn't. And that makes the plate tectonics, move and shift, and therefore climate change causes more earthquakes.
Right. Yeah. That heavy carbon just pushing those plates around.
Exactly. The heavy carbon goes into the earth and pushes the plates around. Boom. We did it.
Yeah.
Sonny, hire us. We'll write these things for you. We'll come up with explanations for you. Okay.
Look at Sonny's face.
I know. It's perfect, right?
I do. It's interesting because I've always heard that racism correlates with stupidity. I do think Sonny leans towards the racist end of the spectrum.
Right.
Yeah. And now I understand why.
There you go.
He's just dumb.
Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground.
It happens.
And then they all start having a conversation.
They're like, what are you talking about? You
This is
fucking
hilarious.
idiot.
This is hilarious.
And the eclipse, they've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses happen, and they actually can say when these things are going to happen. So all these folks who are saying, it's a sign from God, God doesn't give you warning. Okay? You think he gave people at the Tower of Babel warning? Oh.
So Sonny doesn't say anything else after this because she I guess feels too embarrassed or stupid. Because everyone's like telling her, like, what the hell are you talking about? So
Sunny looks so much like Michael Jackson. It's weird.
you're right. That is weird.
She's like the spitting image of Michael Jackson.
Does she look like
Especially
that
that
normally, or does she have
face.
work done? I don't know.
Yeah.
Huh.
Strange.
You know, it's funny. You were saying that Sunny's stupid, right?
Yeah.
You know, she's a lawyer.
Look, YouTube will show you plenty of stupid lawyers. So
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, this is hilarious. It says she began her career as a law clerk to retired chief judge of the Maryland Court of Appeals. She became a trial attorney in the U.S. Department of Justice's Antitrust Division.
oh yeah. Okay,
Then she
good
became
stuff.
then she became a federal prosecutor specializing in child sex crimes. So that's good.
Well, look, she could be a genius law person and just doesn't
I'm
understand.
skeptical.
I mean, it is kind of weird to.
Hmm.
I mean, you'd think the person knew how just basic climate works, but I don't know. Maybe she's a super genius in her field. Look,
She then
let's give her the
became
benefit of the doubt.
she started her television career as a commentator for Court TV. Uh,
Okay.
I think on Nancy Grace or something. That show.
Oh wow.
She was
That
offered
crazy
yeah,
woman.
that crazy lady. Then she was offered a spot on the O'Reilly Factor.
Wow. Okay.
And that's so. Well, here's the question. Maybe it's not that she was always stupid. Maybe it's that being like a television host makes you stupid. Is that
Right.
possible?
It could be.
That's very possible, right?
I do think people can have expertise in certain areas and be completely daft in other areas. So I'm going
I
to say that's
mean,
what's going on.
I agree with you, but
Hmm.
like not understanding that like climate change isn't going to impact an eclipse or an earthquake,
That's
like
tough. That's a tough one.
that requires a general lack of understanding that like how are you a lawyer, right? Unless let me put on a little bit of a good faith Gary hat here. Maybe here's what was going on, because if you notice, this beginning of the story is her talking about a stylist running out of the green room saying that Jesus is coming, the rapture is coming, right? Because of all these events happening simultaneously. And she said this maybe it's an indication that climate change is real or something else, right? So maybe it's possible. She doesn't actually think it has anything to do with climate change. She thinks it's some like spiritual, religious, weird thing. But she understands that that's like not acceptable. So she thought she could soften the blow by throwing out climate change first and then saying, or maybe it's what I really think. It's God, right? Maybe that's what was going on in her mind.
Yeah, that could be.
Anyway. Okay. Fondue for $2 says cicadas make the anime summer sound. True. True. And if they just stayed in summer afternoons making their anime sounds, I wouldn't have a problem with them, right? No problem with them. They don't.
I've
They'll want to
only heard
be.
one brand of cicada, so I mean,
Mhm.
you're saying that they have a bunch of different sounds, but I've only heard one, and it's like a buzzing that just never ends. It's like consistent for like an hour.
That's the one that I'm talking about. That's awful.
Okay, yeah.
Is
That's
that
the only one I've ever heard.
when you hear, is it at night or is it during the day?
Sometimes at night, sometimes during the
Okay.
day. I mean, they mess with you. And they're loud. And look,
They're
you're
very
looking
loud.
around, you're like, where the heck is that? Like I'm looking around trees. I'm like moving
You can't,
around.
they're very difficult to find. Yeah.
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 You're like, this thing must be tiny. It's like a flea. It's
No,
super loud.
They're actually bigger than you'd think, but that they do this thing where they hide under leaves or rocks, so you can't
Okay.
really see them, or kind of like half under the ground
Right.
in like a weird position, so it's hard to find them. But well, so I know like when I was growing up, there would be the stereotypical anime ones, which it's like kind of the sound you're talking about, Adam, but it'd only be for like 20 seconds and then it'd trail off, and there'd be like a big pause, and then it would start up again.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't bother me that much because it was just like it was like that trailing off. And I was like, okay. And it was during the day. And that's what I think most people think of cicadas. But then I don't know where this one that you're talking about is, which is like it came at night and it's just this constant fucking like hour long, 2 hour long sound. It's just awful. So
Yeah, terrible.
Michael for $20 says, love the streams. S-Class is best class. Quick question. Does free will go bad? I never figured out how I'm supposed to take it. Am I supposed to smoke it? Do I take it in pill form? The stuff I bought is starting to smell. Well, here's the good news. Okay. Free will never, ever goes bad. You can bank free will and you can keep it as long as you want. And you don't have to put it in the fridge. You don't have to put it in the freezer. You don't have to put it in Ziploc. It will stay good forever.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Never spoils.
It will. Actually, that's not true. I take it back. It does spoil. Here's the problem. Free will doesn't spoil, but it gets corrupted.
Oh, it does?
Okay? It gets corrupted. Yeah, it gets corrupted by tribalism and stupidity. But here's how you can prevent that. Every time you watch the Sitch and Adam show,
you keister your free will.
It's like you put a big blast of antibacterial all over all your free will, and it keeps it nice and fresh again. Right? So there you go. That's how as long as you keep watching us, it's going to make all your free will stay good forever.
I don't like this lore. It feels manipulative.
That's just the way it is. I'm just saying that's the
opposite
truth.
of free will.
That's just the way it is. So the good question, as long as you watch us, that free will stay good forever. So you get another 20 free units of free will just for you, Michael. And in terms of how you can take it, baby, you can take it however you want. Okay, whatever feels right for you. You want to eat it, you want to smoke it, you want to make it a suppository, whatever feels good for you. Okay.
Look, it's Miss Sparkle's birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Miss Sparkles. Look at that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice. It's too bad your birthday wasn't yesterday when the cicada earthquake eclipse was happening.
I know, you could have got blamed for climate change.
You could have been. Now, if your birthday was on all those events, I don't know if that means that's like a good sign, or like, are you the second coming of Jesus, or are you the second coming of Satan? Or I guess the first coming of Satan, right? Stug for $10 says, it's simple. You see that when the atmosphere gets warmer, it expands the tidal forces from the moon becoming exaggerated because causing its orbit to shift slightly in the path necessary to block the sun. There you go. Look, Stug came up with yet another good explanation of how climate change creates the eclipse. There you go.
Excellent. That's what we need. More fake news.
That's right. I used to do this thing years ago on Twitter. I should start doing it. I should make a Twitter account. This would get a crap ton of Twitter views. It's just me posting wrong facts that sound kind of like maybe they're true, but they're not.
And you want to post them from a different account because
it wouldn't be. I'd make an account dedicated to it. It'd be called like wrong facts. Or something. Yeah, and just saying a bunch of things that are like kind of sound maybe like they're true, but they're just completely made up.
Sure. That would be so off-brand for you.
I used to do that on my normal Twitter account.
Did you really?
Yeah, there was a time period without any explanation that every day I would just post something that I just made up. People understood what was going on. Like at first, when I started to do it, like people were like, "Is this real?" And then after like a week, they're like, "This can't be real." Fondue for $2 says, Sitch is proving that being dumb isn't easy. That's right. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work and effort. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Okay.
Yeah, of course. I started to say this, but I never asked you. Have you seen the movie A Face in the Crowd?
No.
That's a great movie. You should see it. It's got Andy Griffith. But he basically...
From the Andy Griffith Show?
Yeah.
Do.
It's a great movie. He's basically, I think he's a radio show host, but he's like trying to make it big. So on his way to the top, he has this advisor who's a moron that he basically takes advice from all the time, because he's like, you got to really key into like the moron demographic to be successcill. It's so amazing. That movie is
Are you
so
saying that
good.
that's the role you provide?
Well, I have my share of advisors, Sitch. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I am fluent in moron. I do.
I'm not. That's the truth.
I don't.
You're right.
I don't think you have to be a moron to be fluent in moron.
That is true.
Yeah. You just have to listen. It's all about being a good listener.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. I'm too much of an elitist.
You are kind of a little bit of elitist. Yeah, but that's okay. That's what we love about you.
Did
you see this tweet? I guess libs of TikTok called out this girl on Twitter, and it turns out she's like a fan of us.
No, who? What
Yeah,
happened?
she wants to come on the show. Libs of TikTok tweeted this thing out. She says,
what was the tweet?
This is your brain on CRT and watching too much MSNBC. Leftists want black people to feel oppressed and victimized. Very sad to see the effects of this kind of brainwashing. And she's got a TikTok here from a black woman. And the thing says, crying for the millionth time about how much easier my life would be if I were white. And I guess she's going through some like real shit. But she reached out to me and said, look, I'm a fan of Sitch and Adam. I listen to you guys, and I'm not a big fan of CRT or MSNBC. Like, so I think we're going to have her on to talk about this. Yeah. So look, and obviously we think real racism exists in the world, right?
Of course.
We're not blind to that. So, but how crazy is it to be called out by libs of TikTok?
Well, do we know what was the context of the TikTok?
I don't know. We'll figure it out when we talk to her, or you can dig into it. I have
no clue, but yeah, we can ask her about it.
I'll send you the thing.
I pulled it up. I found it. I can't see what the TikTok name is because it's like white on blue sky, but I'll figure it out. It's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it could be an interesting story. So just thought I'd let you guys know.
And it also doesn't help that the right, that immediately after the TikTok post this, one of the top responses is someone adding the fire detector sound in the background as like a racist joke. So
what does that mean?
There's like this meme that black people are too incompetent or stupid to change the fire detector battery.
Oh, okay.
You know how it like makes that chirping sound when it needs to change the battery?
Yeah.
Right.
I get it. Batteries are expensive, dude. Fucking yeah.
But it doesn't really help the libs of TikTok. It's people do these like jokes. They think, oh, that's funny, but I mean, they're really sabotaging their own political movement when they just come up. I mean, I guess they don't give a shit. They just like want to get likes, even though they're making themselves come off as like hyper racist to everyone.
Yeah, this tweet got like 12K likes.
It did. Yeah.
So very sad.
Interesting. Let's see where. Dodoms for 5. Aussie Buck says, surely the Republicans should be pushing for mandatory government-funded concealed carry for all women and solve both the supply and demand sides in one go. There you go. I agree. I agree completely.
Do you? Nice.
I do. Got to shoot that baby out of them.
Oh my goodness.
Nomad for $10 says, me finding out I picked up a little weight at the end of the month. Quote, well, it's actually the weight of the carbon in the air from global warming to push me down close to the earth. Sitch told me so. True! Climate change made you fat. Okay, listen. That's going to be the next one. Okay, that's going to be the next part of the fat acceptance movement. Climate change is at fault. Climate change is what made me gain weight. It's not my fault. Okay? It's climate change's fault. Climate made me fat. Right. I would go out and exercise, but it's so hot outside.
Just eat your Haagen-Dazs, fatty. Come on.
Lord Cameron
rich.
Lord Cameron for 6 months says, brain activity starts at 6 weeks. We don't know if adults are conscious. How are you saying babies are conscious at 15 weeks? So when I looked into this, and we kind of talked about this like a while ago when all the abortion stuff was coming out. I publicly said whenever they think consciousness starts is where I point the finger at abortion, and I didn't know the answer intentionally because I didn't want the answer to the question to bias my take. And then when we looked into it, it was that all the research shows that like brain function that's associated with like higher levels of like human consciousness, the ability to have sentience, we're all like I believe in the 20-week range in terms of when they can monitor these sorts of things. The type of brain activity that you're talking about, I believe, is just like your brain stem, which regulating your heart and automatically regulating your heartbeat and breathing and things of that nature. Not exactly think like you could be in a coma and still like that part of your brain is still functioning. So
your lizard brain,
right? Yeah, like you could be brain dead and you could still have like your brain set working essentially. So that's when I say conscious, I mean like sentience, like the thing that makes you human as opposed to just being a vegetable or being another animal or something.
At 15 weeks, you should start. Your fetus starts listening to Mozart and reading Shakespeare, right?
True. Yeah.
Doing long division.
Exactly.
Talking about climate change and eclipses.
Well, that's it for today.
Wait a second. I'm loving Anna's. What are we doing, Ark?
What?
Adam Gadba, member for 20 months. Free Will Seeker says, I'm loving Anna's.
Oh.
What are we doing, Ark?
Yes. Based.
So am I.
We all love this.
We love it. So, all right, guys, get those likes up. Remember, we don't want those declining birth rates. Every single like that doesn't appear on this video is a miscarriage out there in the world. You guys are baby killers.
And you thought the free will
be a baby
was
killer.
Motivation was manipulative.
Don't be a baby killer, okay?
That's
Click
right.
that like button.
Every like increases the sperm count of every man in the country by
Of course.
1 million. Okay.
Yes. It drives those T levels through the roof. And not the toxic kind of T levels.
No,
the good kind.
Yeah.
The protecting kind, right?
Okay.
Protecting of children. So, all right. That was great. I don't think we're streaming tomorrow, but
We're gonna have a video tomorrow, but we're not streaming, right?
yeah, we're gonna do a video tomorrow.
So there you go.
And we may or may not stream on Thursday. Still
We'll
up
see.
in the air, but
Yeah.
bye-bye.
Take care.